Good morning, members. When we suspended last night, the committee was considering the planning bill. I remind members that the planning bill and the natural environment bill are heavily interrelated and that there are matters that are relevant to both bills. This will be taken into account when assessing relevancy in debate. When the committee suspended, we were debating Part 6, the debate on clauses 217 to 294, enforcement and other matters, including proposed new clause 295, discussing Schedule 8, enforcement matters, and Schedule 11, amendments to other legislation.
Madam Chair.
The question again is that Part 6 stand part. Aaron Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for outlining just how much there is in this part. We are coming towards the end of our questions, but the Minister and the Chair last night, we had a back and forth around a clause 283 large A and his contention that I believe he said when you make a law it has to apply. And the idea here, though, is that the Regulations Review Committee and the Departmental Disclosure Statement have both dealt with the issues which arise from this clause, which are a very wide Henry VIII provision, which provides for regulations to be made which are forward-looking and deliberately drafted in a way which seems to be Parliament saying with its full chest that these regulations will be for matters which may be policy matters which are not contemplated by this Act but by other acts. So my first question to the member and the Chair is at 283AB, we've got this very broad provision which allows provisions of other legislation remanded or revoked or repealed by this Act not to apply or to continue to apply or to apply as modified. So what we've got there essentially, and this is what I want to ask the member, is would it be possible for regulations that applied under the RMA to continue to apply for 5 years? I think that's correct. And so what would the conditions be that the member and the Chair would expect those regulations to apply? Would he expect the regulations to apply within the policy intent of this bill? Because that's not what it says, but that is a job for all of the parts of the funnel to make sure that the regulations do apply in a way which is consistent. For example, the cessation of mana whakahono-a-rohe agreements are in regulation, and this clause would allow a Cabinet by order in Council to not apply that regulation for a period of 5 years, so to keep mana whakahono-a-rohe agreements in place and operative. And the ordinary, I think it's 58 UL of the RMA, which provides for those mana whakahono-a-rohe, any regulations made under those in place. I also want to ask him about the change to 2A here. So there's a specific limitation that has come in at a later date, and his new amendment makes it clear that the sort of limitation in the regulations will be a shortening of timeframes. Is that the intention more generally, that regulations will narrow in scope with the narrowing of the funnel, or is that just indicative of timeframe? Like what are we to read from that new 2A?
Chair.
The Honourable Rachel Brooking.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last night, the Minister was in the chair, and I was asking questions about the provisions that will commence within a month of commencement, so soon, presumably soon, quite nice soon. We'll have a debate about commencement shortly, and I will ask some questions about this. But I was asking about Section 104, and this is one that limits what can be taken into account when assessing effects. And I asked whether this was the death of urban design, and I can't remember the word that the Minister said, but it did start with E, and it wasn't extinct, but it was close to it. Extinguished? I don't think it wasn't quite extinguished either. But then the conversation somehow moved to TV screens, the placement of TV screens and Juliet balconies. And we had quite a discussion about Juliet balconies. I don't want to relitigate the Shakespearean quotes that were going around the house late last night. But,
that's good, because we don't like to go backwards.
But I do have 2 questions relating to that and then a third question. So the question on the conversation about the Juliet balconies and where you put the TVs, I had asked, and it was via interjection, but the Minister was responding, if he had examples of councils having consent conditions about the placement of a TV. And he did not respond to that question. And I would like an answer to that question, because he then morphed into Juliet balconies, and that is obviously a cost on a developer, and that's I understand his policy point there about wanting to be able to do affordable housing. But building a Juliet balcony and the price that goes into that is very different from somebody saying where the placement of a TV is. And I have not seen examples of that, so I would like to know if there are examples of that. If that is the mischief that this commencement of Section 104 is trying to deal with, not just Juliet balconies, but also TV placement. But then I also want to know about this, this word, which wasn't quite extinction, for urban design. The member of the chair can comment further on how it sounded like urban design was still alive, but only just. So if the member and the chair can say how alive that urban design is it a threatened species? That's what I want to know about urban design. Now, and then another question I'd asked yesterday that didn't get answered was back in Schedule 8 rather than Schedule 11, and it was about the adverse publicity orders and this use of built environment, and how that is a strange term, and how is it to be interpreted. So I'd like the member and the chair to spend some time on that built environment and how it becomes, it's not intuitive. Unintuitive, even. Is that such a word? I don't know. I'll leave it there.
Madam Chair.
Simon Court.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to respond to Aotearoa Williams' questions about 283A-B. Regulations under the RMA will continue to apply as provided for in the transition. Question was, are those powers to make regulations, they would need to be consistent with the intent of this bill, and that is a reasonably standard clause in bills of this size. You cannot have regulations beyond the scope of the Act. With respect to the member's question about Henry VIII clause, which she continues to amplify from the opposition benches, why is there a regulation-making power that enables primary legislation to be amended? Well, the transition to the new system would be complex. It's likely to be unanticipated situations not provided for in transitional provisions. But I get the purpose of the member's question, which, if I were to paraphrase, would be what prevents future governments using this power more broadly than intended, which any member of Parliament and anyone, any of our citizens would be concerned about. This clause provides safeguards, and the changes made by Select Committee include more specificity around exactly what regulations can do, and include a test for the Minister to be satisfied the regulations are necessary or desirable for the orderly implementation of this Act or the Natural Environment Act when they are passed, and are consistent with the purposes of this Act and the Natural Environment Act. In addition, any regulations made under this provision that are still in force 5 years after the date of royal assent will be revoked on that date, consistent with other provisions of the bill. Now, I want to get to the Honourable Rachel Brooking's questions about transitional matters and around urban design and matters that are in scope and out of scope. During the transitional period, the transitional arrangements go some way towards limiting what matters may be considered internal to a boundary, internal to a premise. The bill further clarifies matters that are not relevant on private property. And the member asked for examples about, are there any examples where the location of TVs or provision of a Juliet balcony or is part of an assessment? Well, councils have asked, I have been advised, that during consideration of consent conditions, that developers respond and modify some of their proposals around indoor arrangements. And if the member wants an example, Christchurch Council requires indoor storage provisions to be made. So there are examples where councils are actually requiring developers and property owners who seek to build to give them what councils ask for in terms of indoor arrangements. And we're changing that because it's important that private property owners be able to build for the people who they intend to live in the property, not to some council's or planners' concept of what good looks like.
Catherine Wedd.
That debate on this question now close.
We've got a wee way to go just yet. Aaron Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A quick, very brief call on the administrative fees part of this bill. I want to ask the member in the chair just a quick follow-up on his question at the last point. On 283A, my question was, is it his intention that, by order in council, mana whakahōnua agreements could continue?
Madam Chair,
Simon
briefly, no, it is not the government's intention
But that's what it says
that mana
there.
whakahōnua arrangements continue. We've been explicit that we do not intend for them to continue, and that we have made provision in the legislation for iwi and councils that seek to come to an arrangement to do that through the provisions around iwi participation agreements.
Aaron Williams.
It is helpful, and that is helpful to have on the record, but it highlights the problem that we have, which is that this is a very, very broad provision for the public service, essentially, to draft orders which are very broad and give a huge amount of discretion, and then, I guess, governance from the pulpit, where a minister says, I hope that you will do X or Y. Moving on to the administrative fees, 23B, 1... I'll do the whole thing at once. 1A through H are the administrative...
Sorry, what clause was that? Sorry.
Page 224, I'm on clause 283 large B. The question, here's the thrust of the question. Are we sure these are all cost recovery mechanisms, or do they also include charges for participation rights? And EA, for instance, the Minister's new addition, are fees for monitoring. If we are clear just at this point in the debate that it is meant to only be administrative costs associated with monitoring, that's quite different than the costs associated with monitoring that are about someone participating in meeting their obligations within legislation. Because, for instance, I'll put it to the member, can councils charge for iwi participation, that is the work associated with hearing the iwi give evidence? This is the converse of the question that the member Huhana Linden asked him, where I'm not asking whether iwi are resourced to prepare these agreements or to prepare the work. I'm asking if, in coming to a council meeting and in presenting the work, that the work associated with hearing that evidence is also charged to the iwi.
Madam Chair.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm not aware of any...
Just a minute, Minister, Simon Court. The member hadn't finished their call, so you may find that there's further questions, which I will take into account if the member...
Thank you.
Let's deal with this one.
Yes.
Let's deal with this one. I'm happy to come back if there's further questions. I'm not aware of any situations, although I stand to be corrected, where submitters are providing information as part of a planning process have been charged for providing a submission and appearing at a hearing to give evidence.
Chair. Yes, that's right. The old schema of fees wouldn't have allowed that, but the new schema of fees seems to allow that. So it would be good to have the member just consider whether, if he could say clearly whether it is his intention in future for submitters to be charged, that would be great. I'll bring his attention to G then. The fees payable for monitoring functions here, it's any functions related to the Act, so now we're getting much broader. I just want to make sure with him that because we've already got this levy in the system, which is intended to be a general fee for the management of the whole system, that this G power isn't about the whole operation of the regional acts, because we don't want people to be double charged for the same thing, and is his expectation that administrative fees and the levy will be held separately, given that one is for the council, one is for the Crown. I'll also then bring him very quickly to 2 and 4 on page 225. Both of these powers work together. Can fees fixed under this recovery system also recover those broader costs is the question. They're all going to be instruments that work under the Local Government Act and under this Act, but they're also not reviewable. Why are they fees that there's no tension in the system to make sure that they are reasonable, other than the people who are then being charged them and can't get out of it? And if they do kick up a fuss, they're also kicking up a fuss with the exact person who stands in the way between them and their development of their land.
Yeah.
The Honourable Rachel Brooking.
Oh, thank you. Now, going back to this Juliet balcony situation, we heard that if you put TVs over here, no capital investment to an investor, and Juliet balconies over here, large capital investment to somebody who's building something. And then the member in the chair said, oh, well, he's got examples, and I was asking for examples of TV placement, even couches. There was no capital investment on a couch. Well, can argue about what capital is, I guess. The member in the chair gave an example of storage. Never in my professional career have I seen consent conditions around TV placements or couches. So I'm asking the member again, has he got evidence of consent conditions relating to the placement of residential couches and residential TV screens? And that is important because a lot of this development of these bills has been done by anecdote, and that is a real problem. And what is not actually how practice works. Now, I've got a different question. I'm going to move tack somewhat. In Schedule 11, going back to Schedule 11, there are a lot of changes that came into the bill in the amendment paper, so after the select committee process. And we've talked about some of them, but they do include quite a lot from page, where am I? I'm around page 569 of the Minister's amendment paper, about certified freshwater plans and limited certified freshwater plans and main duties of farm operators, and more about farm operators. And these are, and whether now over on 572, whether the farm's freshwater farm plan or part of a freshwater farm plan is required to be certified, date for that certification, its audit. So all of these provisions have just been stuck into the transition provisions, and I'm sure we'll be talking more about farm plans in the natural and built, not the natural and built, in this separated out bill, in the natural environment bill. I know we will be talking about farm plans more, but they are also mentioned in this Schedule 11, and it is by amendment. And it does go to the wider fiction that the member of the chair is fixated on, and that is trying to say that you can't have integrated management. And again, I stand here wearing my dress, which represents an urban environment, and with my earrings here that are very much about native flora, and of course these two things go together. So this is an example, one of the many examples of how ridiculous it is to try and say that there is not integrated management. But anyway, it was a slight digression, but not really. The point here is, what are all these transitional changes to farm plans that have been introduced into Schedule 11, 1, and 2, going back to, is there any evidence of any council requiring a residential consent to place a TV in a particular spot or not, to avoid a particular spot? And could that not have been dealt with by other methods rather than totally changing the law in a month's time from commencement?
Madam Chair.
Simon Court.
Oh, what a wide-ranging series of questions. I'll do my best to answer the members' questions. Rachel Brooking asked, are there any evidence of consent conditions relating to the location of TVs? Now, resource management practitioners who have advised me and provided advice to the government on the blueprint have described situations which have been confirmed to me in advice that I've received from officials that these consent conditions aren't necessarily going to appear, because when a developer approaches council seeking a consent, the urban designers at council will tell them, if you don't change the layout and make the changes to your design that we've asked for, you risk having your application notified. It's a form of regulatory standover. And that is why the government has chosen, and we will be asking Parliament to support the removal of that, of the ability to demand those type of changes to the internal layout and arrangements inside a property, because it doesn't affect anybody outside the property. And I urge the member to consider the intention of that policy change and the benefits it will bring, because we can't have councils using their powers to threaten notification to a development application to insist on design changes based on their vibes and reckons. We're shifting away from that. It's a purposeful legislative and cultural change. And I hope the member is able to internalise that and get to grips with it, because it's going to be part of the new system and the way the planning system works in the future. Now let's come back to the member's question on fees, and then we'll get to farm plans. Aruna Williams had a question on fees. The question was, how are the fees to be made? How can we be confident? Well, I just refer to the member to 283B2, where there is a fulsome explanation about how fees fixed under this section must be prescribed, ascertained, and how local authorities may fix different fees for different costs it incurs. But let's be clear, they must all be made within the bounds of the legislation. I'll come to Rachel Brooking's question on farm plans. It was I wasn't quite sure what was the detail or specific question the member had. I understand it was more around the changes that had been made and what's here compared to what was considered by Select Committee. It's clear that there's a need for farm plans to do the heavy lifting in the new system when it comes to managing the impacts of primary production. That's the government's stated intent. But in recognising that farm plans have an important role to play, it's also important to recognise that different primary land uses have different impacts on the environment. Some are greater than others, and therefore we have made changes to be clear that where the impacts that farm plans are intended to manage are potentially greater, the risks are potentially greater, then those type of farm plans are going to require a higher level of certification. And for primary operations where the risks are lower, or on a particular property where there are different types of risks, then there is provision for the higher risks to be subject to certification and audit, and for the lower risks to be simply subject to management, described in a farm plan how they'll be managed, and of course audit and compliance monitoring and enforcement to make sure that those farm plans are actually managing the risks to the environment, if that's what they're intended to manage, and that if those risks are not being managed well, then obviously compliance monitoring and enforcement remains available to the regulator.
Honourable Rachel Brooking.
Oh, thank you. I just want to go to respond to some of what the member said to me about vibes and reckons. And that I should internalise something about his policy here. But again, he has given no evidence about consent conditions applying to TVs. So he has, with his vibes and reckons, he's making policy here. He's inviting me, I was invited by the member and the chair to agree with his policy position. But it appears, Madam Chair, that his policy position is based on vibes and reckons. And I want to tell him that any policy that I want to be part of needs to have some evidence behind it. Where is the evidence that councils are requiring conditions about the placement of TVs? And I'll even open up that to accept his part answer, which was about whether or not consents would be notified. Of course, hardly anything is going to get notified under this new regime, but I understand that this is an almost immediate commencement provision. So, where are the TVs?
Can I just say that the Minister did address the question, and he did refer to the consultants that had provided support to the Minister, but I'll ask him to respond again and then we'll move on from that.
Sure, and Madam Chair, thank you for asking him to respond. He has not answered a question about TVs. He's answered the question about the internal layout of a building. That is a structural layout.
I got it.
Not the temporary fixtures,
Understood.
which are TVs and couches.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Simon Court.
Thank you for the opportunity to further clarify the government's intention was that matters internal to a property, whether they be TVs, whether they be storage, the location of the couch, where you plug your kettle in, will no longer be subject to planning provisions and rules and consents. And the intention of that is so that people who wish to develop their land and arrange their properties for the benefit of the people who will come and live inside a building can think about what might those people want, rather than not have to think about what might the council planner want. And so, while the member heckling from the opposition benches claims this is a fiction, I reject that. I have had advice provided to me, and I have had it explained to me that in negotiations between resource management practitioners, of which I understand the member Rachel Brooking once had some experience in, that during negotiations with councils, it is proposed by urban designers that arrangements within a building be made to satisfy that designer, at the risk of, if not satisfied, a council will notify a project for public notification and consultation, which delays it, exposes the developer to enormous cost. And while the member asks me for an example, I have provided a description of the situation and the advice provided for me in far more than generic terms. Well, the member might be obsessed by televisions. There are many examples that have been provided to me of the type of shakedown that occurs in discussions between developers, property owners and local government planners. And on this matter, that will no longer be subject to a shakedown in the future.
Catherine Webb? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I know that.
Catherine Webb.
I did.
Katie Nimmin.
I know that debate on its question now closed.
Sorry, we are almost there, but not quite. Aaron Williams.
Madam Chair, acknowledging your indulgence, I'll just let the member and the chair know I'll race through this and so we don't have a back and forth. 295, I'm at page 235. The repeal of the Resource Management Act in here is a new thing that the amendment paper introduces. So we haven't had any discussion about how that will work, and that is different from, say, the Natural Built Environment Act, where practitioners in this space will be familiar with, which it didn't do that. It legislated for specific subordinate legislation. So I'm asking the Minister about how this will work when the eventually an order in council will set the date for the transition. I'm not asking him when, I'm asking him how all of the other planning instruments which are not defined by Schedule 1 continue to exist. So the instruments like NPSs and NESs are defined in Schedule 1, but there are plenty of other regulations and rules which are going to be a creature of something. What? What empowers rules, regulations, directions that are made that are not instruments and that are not the regulations which are set out in this Act? And the second question is the AP now allows different regions to operate under different rules at different times. So the thrust of the question to the member and the chair is it possible for, say, Auckland to be operating under the new rules and under a new plan, which it will, it's geared up to do that, and Waikato to be operating under the old rules and its old plan for, I think, a period of 5 years? What will that mean for places like Pōkeno, which are right on the border, and many of their services like wastewater, like transport services are shared? And why was that introduced later? Because there must be a real world mischief which is being solved here, that different regions can go in different times, that's been identified along the way. So what is the justification for that, please?
Madam Chair.
Simon Court.
There's very clear transition provisions. When it comes to national instruments like national policy statements under the RMA, we intend to replace them with a new national policy direction. There's an illustrative version of that out now for non-statutory consultation. I urge the member to look at it. It's quite clear that rather than having many different, I recall something around 20, maybe 21 pieces of national direction or national instruments under the RMA. We're going to consolidate it into one piece of national policy direction, and then under each theme in that national policy direction, the member will see that there are standards set out which further particularise how the system is to be implemented. The intended transition is over 5 years, but if it can be brought forward, of course, we would prefer that, but we've provided sufficient time. There was a question around would councils do things at different times? We have anticipated timeframes where the national standard for making spatial plans will be available, followed by regulatory plans, but all of this to be occurring and fully transition within 5 years. If a council is a few months or a few ahead or behind of another council, the government will choose the transition date through an order in council when the government at that time is satisfied that everything is in place. So those coordination issues, say, between a region like Auckland and a region like Waikato, which have made their own combined plans, should be resolved by the fact that while some provisions in those plans are under the legislation or with regard to standards can come into effect sooner, we're not waiting for 5 years for the system to be implemented. We want the benefits to be available within 1 month of royal assent for some of the matters that begin to transition immediately. It's set out in Schedule 11 what those matters are. I fully expect that by the time the government says transition is complete, we're ready to go and turn on the new system, then all the new plans will come into effect fully at the same time. And I hope that addresses the member's question fully.
The question is that The Minister's tabled amendments to the amendments to Part 6 set out on AP number 709 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. A party vote, please, Mr Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First. Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Takuta Ferris.
1 vote opposed.
Mariamino Kapakini.
1 vote opposed.
Sorry. 1 vote opposed. Excuse me.
She does.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 55. The question is agreed to. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Part 6 set out on AP number 709 as amended be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. A party vote, please, Mr Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Takuta Ferris.
1 vote opposed.
Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 55. The question is agreed to. The question is that Huhana Linden's amendment to clause 283A set out on AP number 733 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Party vote, please, Mr Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
ACT New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Takuta Ferris.
1 vote in favour.
Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 55, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. We move on to Schedule 1. The question is that the Minister's tabled amendment to AP number 709...
Sorry, I apologise for interrupting. I believe you've missed a question about Part 6 as amended standing
part. Correct.
Sorry about that.
No, that's my fault. My apologies, members. The question is that Part 6 as amended stand part. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Ayes have it. Party vote, please, Mr Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Takuta Ferris.
1 vote opposed.
Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 55. The question is agreed to. Back to Schedule 1. The question is that the Minister's tabled amendment to AP number 709 to Schedule 1 be agreed to. Those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no? No. The noes have it. Party vote is called for, Mr Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Takuta Ferris.
1 vote opposed.
Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The The ayes are 67, the noes are 55. The question is agreed to. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Schedule 1 set out on AP number 709 as amended be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Noes have it. Party vote. Party vote, thanks, Mr Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Takuta Ferris.
1 vote opposed.
Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 55. The question is agreed to. Huhana Linden's amendments to clauses 5 bracket 7, 12C, 13, 17, 18A, 21, 21A, 25A and 27 of Schedule 1 set out on AP number 733 are out of order as being inconsistent with a previous decision of the committee. Question is that Huhana Linden's remaining amendments to Schedule 1 set out on AP number 733 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Party vote, please, Mr Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand
8
First.
votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Takuta Ferris. Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
Yeah.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that Honourable Rachel Brooking's amendments to Schedule 1 set out on AP number 742 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Ayes have it. Party vote, please, Mr Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand
8
First.
votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Takuta Ferris. Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. Tamith Paul's amendment to Schedule 1 deleting clauses 21, 21A and 21B is out of order as being inconsistent with a previous decision of the committee. Tamith Paul's amendment to Schedule 1 replacing clauses 21 brackets 2 is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. Wareni Kaipara's tabled amendments to Schedule 1 deleting clause 21 brackets 2, replacing clause 21A and inserting new clause 21C are out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. Wareni Kaipara's tabled amendment to Schedule 1 inserting new clause 24A is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. Wareni Kaipara's tabled amendment to Schedule 1 deleting clause 37 is out of order as being inconsistent with a previous decision of the committee. The question is that Schedule 1 as amended stand part. All those in favour please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. A party vote please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Takuta Ferris. Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to.
Madam Chair, could you just pause for me one moment, please? Hello? one. So you're also left to correct the vote and take any votes that he has away. Okay. So Mr. Abel's going to seek leave at a moment for the Takuta Ferris votes and every vote that we've had so far to be taken away because they voted for him incorrectly.
Oh, so you don't have... okay. Okay, that's fine. You just seek leave.
Do it between the vote and the final. Yeah, just do it between the vote.
We'll move to Schedule 2. The question is that Honourable Rachel Brookings tabled amendment to AP number 709, inserting clause 6 brackets 1 brackets N in Schedule 2 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The noes have it? The ayes have it. Party vote. A party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
ACT New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Takuta Ferris. Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to.
Point of order.
Point of order, Scott Willis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I seek leave to correct the vote. Earlier I voted for Takuta Ferris.
I'll just put the leave. Leave is sought for that purpose. Is there any objection? There appears to be none.
Thank you, Madam
So just explain.
So Takuta Ferris, no vote for all the votes that I took for...
So for the entire...
Part 6 and schedule.
Part 6 that we're voting on in the schedules,
Yes.
there is no vote from Takuta Ferris.
Yes.
Okay, we'll record that and adjust the results accordingly.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Pardon? Let's not. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Schedule 2 set out on AP number 709
Sorry, says that was as amended. No. Because it's...
Sorry, I'm just checking whether that's been amended.
No, because that would be the first question here. That was lost, so it's not. It would just be agreed to.
Okay. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Schedule 2 set out on AP number 709 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it.
Noes have it. Party vote.
Party vote, please, Mr Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Takuta Ferris. Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. Land Farm's amendment to Clause 6 of Schedule 2, set out on AP number 731, is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. The question is that Land Farm's amendments to Schedule 2, set out on AP number 729, be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Ayes have it. Party vote, please, Mr Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
ACT New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Takuta Ferris. Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that Schedule 2, as amended, stand part. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Party vote. Thank you, Mr Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Takuta Ferris. Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. Move to Schedule 3. The question is that Honourable Rachel Brookings tabled amendments to AP number 709, amending clauses 5, 15, 16, 17 and 20 of Schedule 3 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no?
No.
Noes have it.
Ayes have it.
Party vote, please, Mr Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
ACT New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Takuta Ferris. Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that Honourable Julianne Genter's tabled amendment to AP number 709, amending clause 24 brackets 2 of Schedule 3 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no.
No.
Noes have it.
Ayes have it.
Favour, please, Mr Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
ACT New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Takuta Ferris. Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to.
Just going to shuffle the clerks, Madam Chair. 1 moment.
Ever shuffled a clerk before? He has to go do oral questions. Okay. The question is that Honourable Julianne Genter's tabled amendment to AP number 709, deleting clause 26 brackets 2 of Schedule 3 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no.
No.
Noes have it.
Ayes have it.
Party vote, please, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
ACT New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Takuta Ferris. Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Schedule 3 set out on AP number 709 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no.
No.
The noes have it.
Ayes have it.
Party vote called for, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Takuta Ferris. Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. Tamika Paul's amendment to Schedule 3, inserting clause 3 bracket C, is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. Land Farm's amendment to clause 11 brackets 2 brackets B of Schedule 3, set out on AP number 727, is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. The question is that Land Farm's remaining amendments to clause 11 of Schedule 3, set out on AP number 727, be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no.
No.
Noes have it.
Ayes have it. Party vote.
Party vote, please, Mr. Clark.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
ACT New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Takuta Ferris. Mariamino Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that Land Farms amendment to clause 18 of Schedule 3 set out on AP number 721 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Party vote, please, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
Action New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Tāku Te Ferris. Maramina Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that Tamitha Paul's tabled amendment to Schedule 3, inserting clause 26, brackets 2, brackets D, be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Party vote, please, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
Action New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Tāku Te Ferris. Maramine Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that Land Farms amendments to clause 32 of Schedule 3 set out on AP number 729 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Party vote, please, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
Action New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Tāku Te Ferris. Maramina Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. Land Farms Amendment to Clause 51 of Schedule 3, set out on AP number 679, is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. Honourable Rachel Brooking's amendment deleting Part 4 of Schedule 3, set out on AP number 667, is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. Oreni Kaipara's tabled amendment deleting Part 4 of Schedule 3 is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. The question is that Steve Abel's tabled amendment to Schedule 3, Clause 62, relating to the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Area Act 2008 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The noes have it. It was close. It was close.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
Action New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Tāku Te Ferris. Maramina Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. Oreni Kaipara's tabled amendment to Schedule 3, inserting new clause 63A, is out of order as relying on amendment to Part 1 that was lodged after time. Oreni Kaipara's tabled amendment to Schedule 3, inserting new clause 63B, is out of order as relying on amendment to Part 1 that was lodged after time. The question is that Steve Abel's tabled amendment to Schedule 3, Clause 67, inserting new paragraph F, be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The noes have it. Party vote, please. Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Tāku Te Ferris. Maramina Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that Schedule 3, as amended, stand part. All those in favour, please say aye. 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 To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. A party vote.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Tāku Te Whereas. Maremena Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. Members, we come now to Schedule 4. The question is that Honourable Julianne Genter's tabled amendment to AP 709, replacing Clause 2 of Schedule 4, be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no? No. Noes have it. Party vote, please, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Tāku Te Whereas. Maremena Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that Honourable Julianne Genter's tabled amendment to AP number 709, deleting Clause 5 of Schedule 4, be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. A party vote, please, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakaiana.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakaiana.
Tāku Te Whereas. Maremena Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Schedule 4 set out on AP number 709 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no? No. I think the ayes have it. No. Party vote, please, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakahiana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
Whā ngā pōti e whakahiana.
Tāku Te Whereas. Maremena Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. The question is that Schedule 4, as amended, stand part. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Party vote, please, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakahiana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahiana.
Tāku Te Whereas. Maremena Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. We move now to Schedule 5. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Schedule 5 set out on AP number 709 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. No. Party vote, please, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakahiana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
Whā ngā pōti e whakahiana.
Tāku Te Whereas. Maremena Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. The question is that Schedule 5, as amended, stand part. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Party vote, please, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Tākita Ferris. Marimena Kapakingi.
One vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. Move to Schedule 6. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Schedule 6 set out on AP number 709 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Ayes have it. Party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Tākita Ferris. Marimena Kapakingi.
One vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. The question is that Orini Kaipara's tabled amendment to Schedule 6, Clause 2, Brackets 2, be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakae ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakae ana.
Tākita Ferris. Marimena Kapakingi.
One vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. Orini Kaipara's tabled amendment to Schedule 6, deleting Clause 6, Brackets 3, is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. Question is that Schedule 6, as amended, stand part. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Ayes have it.
Noes have it. Party vote.
Party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Tākita Ferris. Marimena Kapakingi.
One vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. We now come to Schedule 7. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Schedule 7 set out on AP number 709 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The noes have it.
Ayes have it. Party vote.
Party vote is called for, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Tākita Ferris. Marimena Kapakingi.
One vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. Orini Kaipara's tabled amendment to Schedule 7, inserting new Clause 39A, is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. The question is that Schedule 7, as amended, stand part. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it.
Noes have it. Party vote.
Party vote, please, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Tākita Ferris. Marimena Kapakingi.
One vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. Schedule 8. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Schedule 8 set out on AP number 709 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it.
Noes have it.
Party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Tikau marima ngā pōti e whakahē ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahē ana.
Taku Te Ferris. Mano mena kapakingi.
One vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. The question is that Schedule 8, as amended, stand part. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no.
No.
The ayes have it.
No, have it.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Tikau marima ngā pōti e whakahē ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 votes in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahē ana.
Taku Te Ferris. Mano mena kapakingi.
One vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. We come now to Schedule 9. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Schedule 9 set out on AP number 709 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no.
No.
The noes have it.
Ayes have it, party vote.
A party vote's called for, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Tikau marima ngā pōti e whakahē ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 votes in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahē ana.
Taku Te Ferris. Mano mena kapakingi.
One vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. Lan Farms amendment to Clause 76A of Schedule 9, set out on AP number 729, is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. The question is that Schedule 9, as amended, stand part. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no.
No.
The ayes have it.
The noes have it. Party vote.
Party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Tikau marima ngā pōti e whakahē ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahē ana.
Taku Te Ferris. Mano mena kapakingi.
One vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. We move to Schedule 10. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Schedule 10 set out on AP number 709 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no.
No.
The ayes have it.
The noes have it.
Party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Tikau marima ngā pōti e whakahē ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahē ana.
Taku Te Ferris. Mano mena kapakingi.
One vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. The question is that Schedule 10, as amended, stand part. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no.
No.
Ayes have it.
The noes have it.
Party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Tikau marima ngā pōti e whakahē ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahē ana.
Taku Te Ferris. Mano mena kapakingi.
One vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. We move to Schedule 10A. The question is that Honourable Phil Twyford's tabled amendment to the Minister's tabled amendment to AP number 709 to insert new clause 4A into proposed new Schedule 10A be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Oh, the noes have it.
Ayes have it. Party vote.
Party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e tautoko ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e tautoko ana.
Tākuta Ferris. Maramena Kapakingi.
One vote in favour.
Thanks, mate. No problem.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that the Minister's tabled amendment to AP number 709, inserting new Schedule 10A, be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it.
The noes have it. Party vote.
Party vote? Please, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand National. New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori. Te Pāti Māori.
Te he whā ngā pōti he whakahe ana, sorry.
Tākuta Ferris. Maramena Kapakingi.
Vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. Move to Schedule 11. The question is that the Minister's tabled amendment to the Minister's tabled amendments to AP number 709 relating to Schedule 11 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Crikey. All those to the contrary? The ayes have it. Oh, party vote.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Tākuta Ferris. Marimena Kapakingi.
One vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. The question is that the Minister's tabled amendments to AP number 709 to Schedule 11 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Ayes have it.
No, ayes have it.
Party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Tākuta Ferris. Marimena Kapakingi.
One vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. Honourable Rachel Brookings tabled amendments to AP number 709, amending Part 1 of Schedule 11 to delete the amendment to Schedule 12 of the Resource Management Act 1991, is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. Honourable Rachel Brookings tabled amendment to AP number 709, amending Schedule 11 to delete paragraphs brackets BA and brackets BB of Section 18 brackets 4 is out of order as not being in the correct form of legislation. The question is that Honourable Rachel Brookings tabled amendment to AP number 709, amending Part 1 of Schedule 11 to delete the amendment relating to the Waikato Tainui Raupatu Claims Waikato River Settlement Act 2010 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakaiana.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e tautuku ana.
Tākutu Ferris. Marumina Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that Honourable Rachel Brookings tabled amendment to AP number 709, amending Part 2 of Schedule 11 to delete the amendment to Clause 7 brackets 3 of Schedule 4 and deleting proposed Part 2A of Schedule 11 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Party vote, please, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e tautuku ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e tautuku ana.
Tākutu Ferris. Marumina Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. Honourable Rachel Brookings tabled amendments to AP number 709, amending Part 1 of Schedule 11 to delete the amendment to Schedule 12 of the Resource Management Act 1991 is out of order as being inconsistent with a previous decision of the committee. The question is that Honourable Rachel Brookings tabled amendments to AP number 709, amending Part 2 of Schedule 11 to delete the amendments to Section 92, 95A and 95B of the Resource Management Act 1991 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e tautuku ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e tautuku ana.
Tākutu Ferris. Marumina Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that Honourable Rachel Brookings tabled amendments to AP number 709, amending Part 2 of Schedule 11 to delete the amendments to Section 104C, 104D, 108AA and 113 of the Resource Management Act 1991 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. The party vote's called for, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e tino tautuku ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e tino tautuku ana.
Tākutu Ferris. Marumina Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Schedule 11 set out on AP number 709 as amended be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Party vote, thanks, Madam Clerk.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumārima ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 votes in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahe ana.
Tākutu Ferris. Marumina Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. Huhana Linden's amendment to the Part 2 heading in Schedule 11 set out on AP number 733 is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. The question is that Huhana Linden's remaining amendments to Schedule 11 set out on AP number 733 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaimārima ngā pōti e tino tautoko ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e tino tautoko ana.
Taku Te Ferris. Maramina Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that Honourable Rachel Brooking's amendments to Part 1 of Schedule 11 set out on AP number 741 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Party vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaimārima ngā pōti e tautoko ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e tautoko ana.
Taku Te Ferris. Marimena Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. Honourable Rachel Brooking's amendment to Part 2 of Schedule 11 set out on AP number 691 is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. The question is that Land Farm's amendment to Part 4 of Schedule 11 set out on AP number 680 be agreed to. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. Noes have it. Pay vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaimārima ngā pōti e tautoko ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e tautoko ana.
Taku Te Ferris. Maramina Kapakingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. Tabitha Paul's amendment to Parts 1 and 4 of Schedule 11, deleting the amendments to the Maori Commercial Aquaculture Claims Settlement Act of 2004, is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. Tabitha Paul's amendment to Part 4 of Schedule 11, deleting the amendment to Section 89(3) of the Urban Development Act 2020 is out of order as being the same in substance as a previous amendment. The question is that Schedule 11 as amended stand part. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Pay vote, please.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaimārima ngā pōti e whakahi ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahi ana.
Taku Te Ferris. Maramina Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. The question is that Schedule 12 stand part. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Party vote call for them.
New Zealand National.
48 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaimārima ngā pōti e whakahi ana.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā pōti e whakahi ana.
Taku Te Ferris. Marimena Kapakingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. Members, we come now to our final debate. This is on clauses 1 and 2, title and commencement. The Honourable Rachel Brooking.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to go first to commencement, and then I'll at some point talk about the title. But it's very important to note that there have been a number of changes since the Select Committee looked at this bill, and so it would, of course, as always, be useful for the member and the chair to explain what those changes are, why they've happened. That's one thing, one question. Then I want to look first at 1A, and that is that the list of the following provisions that come into force 1 month after royal assent. And as we were discussing in the last debate, 1 month after royal assent is very soon, presumably, and it's going to be incredibly close to the election, Madam Chair. And generally, big changes aren't made, big policy changes aren't made so close to an election. And particularly, we were in the last debate asking why were councils ready to make these changes so quickly? And the member and the chair told me that the policy decisions seem to be based on vibes. I asked for evidence about any consents around fixtures. No evidence was given. So this is policy based on vibes, based on anecdote, and it's going to come into effect in a month's time from the commencement, when all the other provisions won't be commencing, just this one that's going to affect planning behaviour very quickly. And from a policy point of view, I do not disagree when the members and the Minister and the Chair talk about expensive structural changes such as Juliet balconies. But I was asking questions about fixtures and I have not got them, so this is based on vibes. Given the proximity to the election, I would suggest, and I don't have a tabled amendment to do this, but I'll put it here, that in fact the following provision should come into force 6 months after royal assent, and that would give some time to deal with the election that is coming on just November the 7th, Mr. Chair. We are at the end of August. We stop being in Parliament from the 24th of September. So this bill will not have its third reading this week. So we know that royal assent cannot happen in the next month, but it will be happening, could be happening, in that month after the next month, so into the end of October at the earliest, or into November. So this is very proximate to the election. Let's move it a bit from the election. That is one question. Will the member and the chair consider that change? Now, then we have at subsection 2, we have the following provisions come into force on a date or dates set by order and council. And there are a lot of different provisions here until we get to subsection 3, which is that any part of this Act that has not come into force 4 years after royal assent comes into force then. So we've got the backstop of 4 years at 3, that's fine. But then, and we've got these first provisions coming online at the election, but then we've got this whole set of significant changes that come into force on dates set by order and council. So what that is vague. It is uncertain. We do not know when all of these different changes will be made. And so my question to the member and the chair about those provisions, and I accept that there might be there's reasons for why you commence different provisions by order in council, but this is if he can give us some answer as to why those provisions are chosen to be by order in council, noting that again we have this big amendment, and then going to 2C, which is, and he didn't answer my question before about irony, the repeal of the Resource Management Act, because of course this government brought back the Resource Management Act, and then it's going to get rid of it again, but we don't know when, because it's going to be in force on a date set by an order in council. So those are my questions on commencement.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank the member for the questions. In answer to the question, what's changed through this amendment paper, we've added a backstop commencement date of 4 years, and we've added a new section, subclause 2AA, which is available for the member to consider. It's to provide for commencement provisions essentially for the land market officer. So those are the changes that this AP makes. The member asked a question about commencement. Why commence it 1 month after royal assent? Why not wait for an election and then see what happens? Well, and I need to inform the member that New Zealanders don't expect reform and progress to be delayed by an election. They want action, and they want the benefits of this reform as soon as possible. The member asked, well, isn't there a lot of work to do? And, are you confident? Well, MCERT staff have been spending a lot of time preparing for transitional consenting to assist councils and applicants. And, of course, there is much work to do, but that's what this government is up for. And that's what officials are up for, and that's what council representatives I've spoken have told me they're up for. They want to get on with it. Members shaking her head. Hannah Linden. She disagrees. She'd rather retain the status quo, perhaps. That's not what New Zealanders want. I've answered the question about order in council. The system will be turned on by order in council, but there is provision, there is some flexibility. So just to come back to an answer that I gave member Arana Williams in response to her question, previous part of the debate, around what if the Waikato is ready but Auckland's not, or vice versa. There is some flexibility for a region by region transition in exceptional circumstances, so that regions that are ready are not unnecessarily delayed by 1 or 2 incomplete plans elsewhere. So I'm happy to clarify that. And further, happy to clarify that my answer to a question in the previous debate, that the bills provide a backstop date of 4 years, not 5. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anita Williams.
This is just a call about the statutory officer, the competitive land markets officer, and it's an amendment that the minister made while the committee stage was open to the commencement of this provision. And given that it's a new provision, I just want to make sure with the member and the chair that we understand the timing of that, because we've heard from the minister over and over again that we'll be building the plane as we are flying it. The opposition has some enthusiasm for this policy, so this is not a general policy critique. This is a question about when these things will come into force. Firstly, the Honourable Dr Duncan Webb is preparing right now an amendment which I would like the member to consider that would mean that the general order in council and regulatory provision which allows a date to be set in future for the statutory officer to commence would be no later than 12 months. It was the 12 months that was discussed back and forth with the Minister around the operative provisions of the statutory land officer. I have been waiting patiently to take this call in clause 2. That is the best way to effect that policy change, is to make sure that no more than 12 months in future, and as the Minister said, you might want to do that in Auckland only, but you could do that in Auckland only if you had a statutory officer which came into effect within no more than 12 months, and then it was operative because it can decide how it's operative in Auckland only. But that is critically important to the policy, that we don't see an unnecessary delay. And at the moment, his provision, I think, allows for 5 years for the statutory officer to come into effect as the maximum date. I think that is the wrong time period. When you look at the effective 188A, the statutory officer is meant to have as much scope as possible for that new office to determine how and when it applies. But the problem is that we've allowed the making of regulations to determine when those powers become operative. So we've created, I think, what is an accidental tension in the system, where MCERT and the statutory officer will at times be deliberately in tension. That is Parliament's intent, that the statutory officer will at times be at odds with MCERT, but MCERT has the power to turn them on. We want to make sure that Parliament is clear here that the statutory officer is meant to be in place within when the regime is effectively in effect, and it's most important in Auckland. So could the member just address that point about there are two changes that the Minister made, one at 7:26, one at 5:40, around just the time-wise for when the statutory officer will come into effect, and I want him to turn his mind to whether there should be a maximum. We've got the amendment paper now, and I will bring him a copy.
Camilla was trying to take a call.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and good to be able to take a call on the commencement. Mr Chair, I wondered if the member would just elaborate a wee bit, and this is following on from the answers given to my colleague Rachel Brooking. When will the Act in its entirety, as set out in 2A to J, come into effect? When will, what is the member proposing in terms of the details of the Order in Council? Can he tell us now the dates that all of those different provisions will come into effect? And if he can't tell us the date when all those provisions can come into effect, can he tell us the time frame for when the Order in Council, which is set out in these commencement provisions as secondary legislation, will be made available in the time frame for that? And I think that the issue around the sensitivity of commencement for this particular bill is that we're in a situation now, we're a few weeks out from the election. We were here 3 years ago and we suffered a significant amount of criticism as the government of the time for making changes to the Resource Management Act prior to the election, and a significant amount of unhelpful rhetoric saying that they would be better, and how terrible it was that the government was changing it so close to the election. And look, here we are 3 years later, and this government has brought back the Resource Management Act. Every damaging thing that has come out of every mouth of a member from the other side of this government saying how bad the Resource Management Act is in force today because of the actions of this government. That is the reason that these improvements could not be made to the Resource Management Act. And I think probably with the benefit of reflection, when we read the member's memoirs at the time that he leaves Parliament, I'm not sure that he or Minister Bishop will in time agree with the approach that they've taken here, because New Zealanders, we all agree that the Resource Management Act needs to change. We changed it and this government brought it back. And now we're in the frustrating position of looking at this commencement clause and not actually knowing the exact dates that these alleged improvements, and some of them we think will be improvements and some of them we disagree with, and my colleagues have put up very, very well thought out, articulate amendments as to why those changes need to be made, but we don't have clarity on that. And I appreciate that there's a backstop. I've understood that. But I think that it would be good so if the member could answer those two questions. The other thing I want to understand, and I know this has come through the select committee process, is when I read this commencement clause, it appears to me that some of the changes are less clear in the new drafting in terms of the exceptions and how they are drafted. So we have 2.1 and it just has a full stop. This Act will come into force the date after royal assent with some exceptions. Full stop. And then we have to look at a separate provision. Now normally we would have, this might be a bit detailed for the member, a colon, a semicolon, a an and, some kind of joining word that actually links the changes to the commencement date with the overall duty. So, you know, why has that change been made? And why is it less clear than it was prior to coming back? What is the Minister proposing to clarify that? This is important because when these changes come into effect is when New Zealanders will, if there is any benefit to this legislation as the member has purported to articulate, will actually have an effect. And so, in a way, it's the most important clause and there's no clarity in it.
Rachel Brooking.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I know that my colleague Aotearoa Williams is very keen to take a call as well on the amendment paper that she has now tabled, and that it will be with, hopefully the member and the chair has seen that amendment as well. But so I want to move on, backwards, up to clause number 1, which is the title, Mr. Chair. And we've just heard a lot, we've had a bit of back and forth about the impending election, and the member and the chair has said, oh, well, we're allowed to make policy to continue so close to the election. Remind the member that that is not what the now government members were saying this time in the cycle 3 years ago. But the point that the member Camilla Bellich was just making about the RMA and it now needing to be repealed again, and that we are here with this significant legislation where government ministers have not taken on board any of the opposition's concerns about it, when we know that opposition, when we win the election, that it will be changed, that they are blustering on and could have taken the Natural and Built Environment Act and the Spatial Planning Act. They could have taken those bills, those acts, they were pieces of legislation, and made amendments to them. But no, they chose to spend 3 years doing their own version and saying that they are going to commence right on the election. So I think that a better title than this act is the Planning Act is, this is the vanity project, just full stop. This is a vanity project, full stop. And then another one, I heard some disdain from the government members who have not been sitting in this House for quite as long as I have, all the member and the chair, who have rehashed these arguments over and over again. We've been discussing urban design. And this is important because the urban design provisions come into force just around the election. And we had some words that I can't now recall that we were that the minister said we're not, it wasn't quite extinction, but it was on the way to extinction of urban design. So another title suggestion could be that this act is the extinguishing of urban design.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Act 2025. And then of course we have a whole lot of this act is, or this bill, is about what the member and the chair would say is the enjoyment of private property rights, and the move from where private owners, people who enjoy that private property, have had to sometimes pay for resource consents and the like, that all of that economic activity is going to move on to the public. And that the member and the chair and the minister as well have talked a lot about that they want to really enable everything. And they talk in ways as if there will be no planning, that this is really the death of planning, because there's going to be so much national direction that is undertaken by the minister that then councils at that local level, they're not allowed to look at place, I've put up a whole lot of amendments to say, okay, well, what about that local pace? What about that localism that government members campaigned on 3 years ago that is all gone now? So my suggestion is that this Act is the anti-Planning Act 2025, Mr Chair, because I think that is what these government members are trying to do. They're trying to say, we don't have to have planning at the local level. Don't worry, everyone, the Minister will decide.
Mr Chair. Mr Chair, with your indulgence, I might need a little longer than 5 minutes to respond to a number of questions. Starting with a question from the member Camilla Bellich in relation to in relation to the member Aotearoa Williams' tabled amendment, asking why the statutory officer for competitive urban land markets could not be set up in 12 months. Well, I would expect that the government will move very quickly to establish the statutory officer because we all have an interest in ensuring that there are competitive urban land markets, that land is available and affordable. That is one of the goals, stated goals of this government. We'll be moving very quickly, but an order in council allows for it to be turned on as soon as ready. So it's also important that, because this is a new concept, that we get it right. So I hope the member understands that getting it right is just as important as moving fast, but absolutely accept the urgency of establishing the office and the officer and getting that office focused on making sure more land is available and it's affordable and it's where people want to live and develop. So we share that goal. I'll just come to the second question, which was from the member Camilla Bellich about a specified transition date. The member, and I think the Honourable Rachel Brooking, also complained that this government had had to resurrect the Resource Management Act. There are some difficult choices in life. One was between the previous government's Natural and Built Environments Act or bringing back the RMA. And we chose the least of those two poor options, the least worst, bringing back the RMA. But I would offer the members in the opposition an opportunity. If they wish to be rid of the RMA once and for all and getting rid of it faster, they could support the government by voting for this legislation. And they could call for a vote right now and we could get the planning bill passed through committee stage right now. Now, responding to Camilla Bellich's further questions, a specified transition date will be set once all plans are notified. It's expected to be early 2030, and the date is in order for councils to allow for plans to be developed before the switchover. Because switching on without plans ready to go would cause chaos, and we have taken a deliberate and considered approach to mapping out the transition. And now I want to go into some of the transition details and responding to questions from members from earlier. The commencement clause provisions required to stand up the system will commence on royal assent as set out in the clause, for example, national instrument provisions, system performance, regional spatial plans in the Environment Court. And that is because people who are participants in the system can get on and get started, and we can start to see and realise some of the early benefits of the legislation immediately. 1 month after royal assent, the changes to the RMA and fast-track provisions will take effect, and the Planning Tribunal will be switched on as soon as it is set up and ready via a subsequent order in council. And then the focus will turn on to the features and matters set out in Schedule 1, Clause 15. We're working towards a specified transition date. 39 months is set out, 4 years is a backstop, and the bills do provide that backstop date, 4 years from royal assent to commence everything. And I'm just making sure that I clarify that with respect to an answer I gave previously. I just want to come to the member Rachel Brooking's description of the title clause and some proposed amendments to it. I'm disappointed in the member because it is quite clear from reading the planning bill that it provides a framework for the enjoyment of land and sets out the goals that this government intends the legislation deliver through the framework in the bill. It provides many of the same features and processes, literally cut and paste from the RMA, that are non-controversial. So I would expect that a member with such extensive background as an RMA practitioner would offer a more constructive suggestion about the title.
I wanted to speak to the issue of commencement, and coming from a rural perspective where, you know, the dollar in council is stretched as it is, and in Hapu and Iwi it's non-existent to participate in these processes. The fear or the concern, I guess, in terms of commencement being straight after royal assent is that the system is not ready and councils are going to have a quickening of readiness to give effect to this process that will be stood up at haste, while still trying to grapple with the day-to-day of what they continue to work through. And as tangata whenua, we'll be left behind once again. And so talking from a Tai Tokiro perspective, knowing that our regional spatial plans have only just started a conversation and we've only just gotten a working group together to try and bring councils together from a planning approach, there's significant worries within the North in terms of the speed by which they will be expected to stand up for this new machinery. And that's my questioning to the Minister in terms of the haste, because we've heard from the Minister this morning, just now, saying, you know, we have to move at pace, but it has to be done well. So it's all in the implementation, really. And so I signal, you know, from the North, we've got our joint committee across councils, and they asked, hey, we need some national tools, a digital platform that brings together all of the information and helps us at a national level to usher in these changes and map out the system. That's been happening at a regional and local level for a little bit, where we've got our own templates and tools, but where is something that can bring us together, some glue in the planning space? So that's a question around, are we ready enough for the commencement at haste, you know, because we're moving at pace. This is a fast-track planning bill that's coming into effect very quickly, but also the voices of tangata whenua being forgotten, and in questioning the member but also the Minister in terms of resource and support and provision for tangata whenua voice, because in readiness for this bill to come into effect, tangata whenua aren't even at the table yet, because council are talking to themselves. So the idea that somehow we're going to be ready, or we need to be ready at haste because of the commencement coming on so quickly, forgets its treaty partner. And it forgets the fact that not all councils are designed or resourced at the same level as well. So that's a partai in terms of, why don't we have commencement, say, 30 June 2027? Give it a bit of time. Let's get the system sorted. Let's do it well, but also do it in a timely fashion. And I don't think that the 30th of June 2027 is too far away. I just think that gives a little bit more breathing space for our officials, for councils, and for finally tangata whenua to be acknowledged, because apparently in the bill, councils and Crown are meant to acknowledge them because it's in the bill, but there's no provision really for us because we just take it into account. That doesn't even qualify a conversation sometimes. It can just be the reading of our treaty settlements or statutory acknowledgements, te mea. So that's a genuine question coming from regional, provincial New Zealand. Not all councils are the same. If we want to do it well, let's push it out a little bit. I'm not saying 3 years, I'm saying just till the 30th of June 2027, and let's get it going. Let's set the system up appropriately, and as our Northland Council's joint management committee, who are trying to figure out how to come into this space, are there national tools and platforms that are going to be established to help us for consistency and for mahitahi, so we can learn and we can have a system that speaks
to us all, no matter where we exist. I recognise Tāmaki Makaurau, Auckland, is special and different. They're massive compared to us in the north. But, you know, in provincial New Zealand, we need to have the safeguards in place in local government to be able to put bills such as this into place at haste, because it's quickening, it's quick. And of course, we're forgetting tangata whenua once again. Kia ora.
Madam, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Undersecretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, respectfully to the member who has raised a number of times concerns around participation, consultation and involvement of Māori in the functions and processes set out in the planning bill. The government is very clear that we intend to provide for Māori interests through Māori participation in the development of national instruments, regional spatial plans and subsequently land use plans, through the identification and protection of sites of significance to Māori, including wahitapu water bodies, sites in or on the coastal marine area, and enabling the development, so important, the development and protection of identified Māori land. So while not all of this is set out in the level of detail the member might wish to see, it is provided for as an expectation, as the intention of the government that is on it. In terms of the member's suggestion around a delayed commencement date, New Zealanders have waited far too long for an enduring reform and reset of expectations of the resource management system, and turning it on 1 month after royal assent will deliver on the ambitions of this government, but also deliver for all New Zealanders who want a far simpler, more agile, responsive and lower cost planning system.
Steve Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to speak regarding title and commencement, and I have a couple of proposed titles. One of the things that was elucidated through the process of us grilling the ministers on the planning bill was the fact that the regulatory relief component of it, whereby property owners are to be compensated financially for protection of nature, is in a very specific regard, that is the status of urban trees, totally unworkable and has been totally not thought out or thought through. In that instance, we have, I'll give Tāmaki Makaurau Auckland as an example because I know it well, 6,000 currently scheduled or protected trees. The Minister clarified that perhaps only a third of those would retain some status because of their heritage value. That means trees with botanical amenity, ecological functions would no longer be protected. And if a council decided they wished to protect them, they would have to set up a framework for doing that and provide a mechanism of giving compensation for not destroying those trees. When the Minister was asked what that compensation might be, some sort of figure, he had no idea. What is the budget for protecting 4,000 or 6,000 trees? Because indeed the heritage trees still are subject to regulatory relief. What is a tree worth? What is a 300-year-old tree worth? What is a 200-year-old tree worth that provides these values? The Minister had no answer to that. What sort of budget is necessary to protect the 6,000 trees that this legislation takes out of protected status? There is no budget estimated. People have talked about a figure of $2 billion for implementing regulatory relief across the whole country because the scale of inverting the principle of a commons that is good for the whole society and therefore deserves a protected status has been entirely inverted by this legislation. Instead of seeing trees as a value to the whole of the society and therefore worthy of protection, this legislation says, no, if you want to look after nature and the commons, you've got to pay for it. It's ideologically nonsensical and utterly unworkable in a practical sense, because who's going to pay the regulatory relief? The ratepayer. Where does the money come from?
Sounds like a tax.
It is a tax. Regulatory relief is a tax. Let's be very clear about that. It's unworkable, ideological madness. So what I'm proposing is that, take a call, Todd Stevenson. What I'm proposing is the name for the bill, which is Planning on Tree Destruction Bill. Because that's what it does. It plans on destruction of the most valuable and exceptional trees in our urban areas. In Nelson, in Auckland, about 3/4 of the trees in Nelson will lose any status at all through this legislation. You could call it the Chainsaw Massacre Bill, because in 2012, when general tree protection was lifted, in 2012, when general tree protection was lifted by the last national government, John Key made a quote that he didn't think that the trainsaws were going to be heard across Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. He didn't say Tamaki Makaurau. And they were. We saw a mass loss of urban trees because of the loss of general tree protection. This is not just getting rid of general tree protection, which hasn't been reinstated. This is getting rid of the scheduling and protection of those most exceptional trees in our urban areas. Another notable thing of this bill is its expectation that regulatory relief will be paid for protecting ecology on the hinterland of Auckland, in the space that goes into that magnificent Waitakere Ranges, the lungs of Auckland. And that will have to be also compensated for. Now, the values of those properties, because they're alongside our biggest city, are very high. So the compensation is going to be high. Again, who's going to pay it? What's the budget for it? The effect of it is the death by 1,000 cuts of that magnificent regenerating lungs of Auckland on the west part of Tamaki Makaurau. So this bill could also be the lungs of Auckland death by 1,000 cuts bill, because the effect of it will be to undermine those long fought for protections by that local community of West Auckland, to ensure that we protect the existing spatial planning designation that protects its exceptional value. I propose those two titles. Thank you.
Mr Chair, answering very briefly, we've been very clear that the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Protection Act provisions carry over.
With regulatory relief.
The member raised the spectre of the cost of regulatory relief being $2 billion. The report he refers to by Martin Jenkins said the range could be $7 million to $2 billion, which shows how little is understood by those who claim to know. And the member referred to the cost of a tree. The legislation and the government's intent is not to value the tree, it's to put a value and seek to have transparency over the potential cost of protecting a public value on private property against the cost or limit to the use of that private property. The member suggested that private property is held in the commons. It is not. That is, we do not subscribe to the collectivist understanding of society that the Green Party does. We believe in the rights of the individuals and private property rights. And so we will not be accepting the member's proposed change to the title.
Maremeno Kapakenge.
I've been sitting this morning listening to a whole bunch of typical, I think, Mr Chair, paternalistic privilege rhetoric. And it just kind of like, this is the one question that I did want to ask. Does the Minister in the Chair, or the member in the Chair, is he familiar with the phrase, because as I'm listening, he's going, well, Maori will or Māori will get, they're an interested party, you know, yes, we know about them, we've got this whole attitude about Maoris or Māori. Is he familiar with the phrase, that's mighty white of you? And the reason, I'm interested if you know that's mighty white of you, because it is the question that rages in me when I'm listening to that paternalistic, privileged rhetoric, that to get away with making such trite statements as if 180 years never existed on this land. And you stand and all puffed up and all of that kind of behaviour. It just, for many Māori that are watching this and watching that kind of behaviour, we know, and they will know, this is why we just simply cannot trust you. Not a single ounce of you. And all of those that carry that same kind of racist, bigoted thinking, I know you might moan, but the ones that will moan when I say that is simply because you cannot help your ignorance. You are completely uneducated. You think you know. And you think that the individual scene and the individual, calm down, I'm speaking. When the individual is better than, then you simply are full of ignorance.
Hold a sec. There is a lot of chatter going across the chamber, and I do want that to cease. But if I could encourage the member to focus on the title and the commencement date.
I sat in.
It's important that this relates to the title and commencement date. That is the subject of this debate.
If so, I presented at a deputation at Far North District Council just recently, Mr. Chair, and I could see the efforts of that council to do their utmost and utter best to make the difference for whānau in Te Tai Tokerau, up in the far north, right? They were doing their best to figure it out with the immense pressure that this piece of work, this particular bill, this House is labelling them and pressuring them to do the best with very little funds. And then I listened to this response again this morning about, oh, they're just going to have to make it work. So to the commencement itself, I mean, as you can tell, Mr. Chair, this is such a fundamentally unworkable and failing plan. I would want to just say, let's not do this at all. But I am interested in the answer to that's mighty wide of you. Have you heard it before? Thank you.
Before I take the next call, just to note for the House, we have had a number of calls based on the commencement date, and the Minister has been engaging, and I did note that there's actually a lot more on this commencement clause than there is in terms of the normal bills that come to this House as well. So we've been canvassing that particular part of it. So if there are calls that are going to be made about the commencement date, please build on and don't repeat things that have been said before. So building on the responses from the member and the chair is fine, but just to note that we have canvassed that. I do note we've also moved to contributions about the title, so we are getting close to it. I will take the next call. Aotearoa Williams.
I want to make a pitch to the member and the chair about naming this bill the Competitive Urban Land Markets in Planning Bill. Mr. Chair, this is a speech I've been waiting to give because it did not fit in Part 5 for some time. This is an incredibly significant policy contribution to the way that the planning regime will work in the future. If it had been introduced at the first reading, I'm sure that it would have made it to the title because it is significant and it changes the way that urban land markets will work in the future of New Zealand, particularly for Auckland, in a way which is novel. It is different to what both the Natural and Built Environment Bill was trying to achieve and the Planning Bill in its first reading, and that's why we should be acknowledging this, because congratulations to the Minister. This is something that has met with broad support in the House. When it was voted on last night, late at night, it was the only amendment which was voted on unanimously. This is something where in the work to build bipartisan and cross-partisan consensus not only on a pipeline of infrastructure work that we can lift out of the daily fray, so too can we work on not only a pipeline of workforce to be able to do that work that we need in New Zealand with New Zealanders and young New Zealanders getting those opportunities, but also with a long-term and cross-partisan commitment to a system where urban land markets are dealt with fairly and where there is competition in the long run so that we can get things built in this country. That's why this planning bill should be renamed Planning brackets Competitive Urban Land Markets brackets Bill. The problem, Mr. Chair, is that we have this persistent scarcity problem in New Zealand's land markets, and geography explains some of it, but we're not like Hong Kong. There's not a hard urban limit in our cities as they continue to expand. There is an effective urban limit, though, which then sets the land price. Well, there are harbours, yes, but as Auckland continues to expand out like a long noodle between its two harbours, it's those fringes as it expands that set the price for land in Auckland. And so the cost of building is effectively what we're trying to change here. We're trying to make sure that we're not artificially restricting and therefore increasing the price of land that's available in our biggest city. And that is something that is critically important to almost everyone in this House with an interest in land development. The member in the chair said, we don't subscribe to this collectivist idea that the Greens have about land development. But this is an idea which is ideological, that we can have a competitive market for land, and one which does broadly have the approval of everyone in this House. And it is an ideological step. It is based on the idea that you can have more competition, that you don't need to be restricted by either the artificial monopoly that the council has or the real and present oligopoly in the market, which is large developers who can command some level of market control, some level of market dominance by sitting on land for a long period of time and waiting for the value to inflate at the expense of the growth of our cities. And so that gap continues to exist in this bill. We're not completely getting rid of it, but this is a significant step in dealing with the problem. Our planning system has never had a means of enforcing that goal, and that has been the problem for a city like Auckland in managing its own aspirations and goals around growing into the global city that we need it to be if the whole of New Zealand is going to be prosperous. The consequence that follows if we don't get this right puts it back on governments to summon up the political will to fight their own constituents. This is the trade-off, that there are National MPs and Labour MPs that have been campaigning against the very things that the statutory officer is meant to mediate for. That Stockade Hill and Panmure is likely to lose its view protections because of something like this. That my own constituency in Manurewa is likely to lose the protections around the two tupuna maunga, Mātukuturua and Mātukutureia, because of things like this. But the problem we have here is that those protections are unequally enforced, and this is a mechanism by which we can get at least some fairness in the system, that communities all around the country can have some hope that there is a fair umpire, and if they are losing those critical protections, that at least it is fair and it is in the service of building more affordable housing faster.
Honourable Rachel Brookie. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a few different topics to talk on, and most of them are building on responses from the member who was in the chair before the minister. One of them is this turning on some of these changes to the RMA in a month's time, and I've heard the Prime Minister speak about it in terms of in a month's time the RMA will be reformed, and then the member in the chair just before the Minister said something similar about how in 1 month's time everything is changing. And I would ask the Minister now if he would like to comment on that, because my impression from the commencement clause is that most of this bill does not turn on in a month's time. Most of this bill turns on once different things have happened, and that'll be in a wee while, and then there is a backstop of 4 years. So why is it that there is this rhetoric that everything's changing in a month? A different question is in relation to the questions from and suggestions for title changes from Steve Abel. There was some back and forth, and Arana Williams just referred to it as well, about this belief that trees are private property in the Act framework of the world, and they are not in the green framework of the world. And this is really important because the regulatory relief goes to biodiversity. And by saying that a landowner also owns the trees, then that must mean that they also own the bats in the trees, the geckos on the ground. And that is this important distinction that we've been trying to make about why regulatory relief is a totally new concept in New Zealand. And which is why I had one of my title suggestions was that this act is the Anti-Planning Act. Now, the member in my third point is The member and the chair before told everyone that he was disappointed in me because I wasn't being constructive. And very pleased to hear that my friend from Dunedin is not disappointed in me. Thank you, Francisco Hernandez. I'll remember that. And now, we have been trying to be as constructive as possible and have offered up very clear amendments and that go back to our differing view in Select Committee, that we tried to work very constructively in Select Committee. But in fact, what has happened is that all of the concerns that I raised with the Minister at the Planning Institute conference in Invercargill, just days after he'd released a report from an expert group, those concerns have been apparent and public throughout. And I have tried to advocate for those changes, one of them, of course, being regulatory relief that we were just discussing. And instead, during the Select Committee process, members went in the opposite direction. And then we have had this giant amendment paper released by the government at the end of last week, and it has gone further in the wrong direction. So I'm not sure how it is that I am supposed to be constructive in the member's mind beyond what has happened. This government has chosen to go in the opposite direction from a very reasonable opposition, an opposition who, despite all my, as the Minister knows, I would of course like to have seen the Spatial Planning Act and the Natural and Built Environment Act continue, but I could accept, I could put away my ego and my vanity and say, okay, well, if you are going to repeal it so you think it will have longevity, let's work on that. To me, Mr. Chair, that sounds like a very constructive approach. Yet, I've just heard that I've not been constructive, and I would like the Minister's comment on that. Thank you very much.
Honourable Chris Bishop.
Mr. Chair, just firstly in relation to Ms Williams' suggestion about planning bill competitive urban land markets, it's slightly inconsistent with her colleague's amendment that should be called the anti-planning bill. There seems to be a slight bit of tension there. But I think to be fair, yes, I know that. I think you're just making up names in order to elongate the debate, so we won't be accepting that. The bill is called the Planning Bill because it will become the Planning Act, which will become our major planning statute, and we think the name is entirely appropriate. On the suggestion from Rachel Brookings, a couple of points there. I mean, the first point is there's a staggered commencement, as the member knows. You can see it in the transitionals and the commencement dates itself. The next point I was about to make is that some things come into effect a month after royal assent, some quick wins for people, the risk of reopening a debate, which I understand happened again this morning around Juliet balconies, and other things to do with which way TVs, Shakespearean tragedy, which was such as it is a Shakespearean tragedy, which way TVs face and layouts of living rooms and things like that. The other thing is retail distributive effects and other such nonsense that's currently in effect under the RMA. So that is good progress. I take a slightly more amiable view than others in relation to the members' engagement on this bill. I think it would be good if both major parties could meet in the middle. But as I've said to her repeatedly, and I don't wish to relitigate it, it's not actually anything to do with the bill. As I've said before, the foundation of this bill has to be good public policy, and there are just differences between the parties on it. The member claims that regulatory relief is a disaster. We have a different view. The member claims that balance is too far in favour of growth and development against the environment. The government profoundly disagrees with that perspective. This member's got a range of different issues that her and I have talked about offline and offline, online and offline. We have a different view. That's actually, at the end of the day, what Parliament is all about. Sometimes disagreement is a healthy thing. In fact, very often it is a healthy thing. And we're trying to create the best public policy we can for the future of this country. The government stands behind the bills and the amendments that it has placed before the House. And I would love the opposition to support them, but I also fully understand where they're coming from, and that's why we're having this debate.
Mr. Chair. Ryan Hamilton.
I move that debate on this question now close.
I am looking for new material, I did note before that we are moving into the title part of this debate, which is an opportunity for members to summarise their content, but I don't want that content repeated. O nini kaipara.
Mr. Chair, tēnā koe. In terms of the title, and I ask the Minister to take these suggestions very seriously as he takes his RMA reform and his planning bill and the natural environment bill that's set to make its way into this House very shortly. The two names I suggest, on behalf of Te Iwi Māori, are very serious and reflect the nature, pun intended, but the true nature and the intent of this bill. Here is the name, Te Ture Raupatu. Translators will be able to help me out on that one. However, for the House, Te Ture Raupatu really reflects what this planning bill is doing to iwi, to Māori, and in this case, to the lovely people of Waikato Tainui who are upstairs in this House. This is what the type of impact that this bill and the Committee of Whole House has had for the last 3 nights. It's actually dragged out the taniwha from the Waikato awa and brought them right here to the bosom of this very House to contest and to ask directly, why the hell is PC1 put on pause? Because that actually renders Te Ture Whai Mana ineffective. Everybody is vulnerable. Without the safety and the protective measures that existed before, they did need changing, but not in this way. So Te Ture Raupatu is an accurate reflection in Te Reo Māori when we look at the details and the devils in the details of this planning bill, as well as the sister bill that's set to come in. For that, a suggestion, and I know the time will come for that Committee of House, but to ensure there's duality across both bills and to, mitigate confusion about which one is which. This one, Te Ture Raupatu, that one, Te Ture Tāhai Taio. Makes sense in Te Ao Māori, and I implore the Minister to take it very seriously. On the issue of commencement, to be fair and frank, Minister and Mr. Chair, when I look into the amendments that were tabled by the Minister in urgency this week, AP number 709, and flip to PC1, right there it says there's no relevant date under PC1 occurs before the close of 31 December. There's still confusion around start dates, end dates that impact the mana motuhake and tino rangatiratanga of those 5 iwi that have mana authority to te awa o Waikato. But spare a thought for every other awa, for every other mana whenua and every other iwi who aren't classified as iwi authorities right now, who will be sitting in their whare, in their car, watching this very House, very concerned about when this all kicks in. So a proposal really is to ensure that there's fairness across the board, and especially when mana whenua rights, iwi rights, that have existed in time memorial and are now at real threat of being undone by this bill.
Mr. Chair.
Hope everybody remember what I just said about new material. Steve Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I seek a clarification on the new material? Yes. It's part of a very recent exchange and discussion around the title between the preceding member and the chair, who talked about collectivist ideology, and my colleague Rachel Brooking and myself. I just would like to ask the Minister to elucidate a view on the principles that underpin the legislation based on that exchange.
Sure.
Thank you. So my colleague Rachel Brooking, I made the point that trees are part of a commons. And just to clarify that point, if a 300-year-old Pahutu Kiawa tree stands on a private property, the average ownership length of private property in this country is 7 years. So houses are bought and sold with such frequency that it's only ever going to be owned by that particular owner for about 7 years on average. That means for a tree to survive for 100 years, say, it has to have had subsequent owners not cut it down. And you only need one owner in the course of that tree's hypothetical life to decide to cut it down for it to be lost in terms of all the benefits it offers to the whole society, i.e. biodiversity, cooling, carbon sequestration, beauty, and so forth. Now, my colleague made the point that if a gecko was in that tree, Because that tree's on private property, the assumption is of this legislation that the owner of that property owns the tree and can do what they like with it. And if we don't want them to cut it down, we have to compensate them for not cutting it down. Now, if a gecko was in that tree, is that also private property? If a tui comes and lands in that tree, is it also private property? The point is no. Under law, we say it doesn't matter whether it's on your property or not, you can't kill a native bird or a native gecko. They have a protected status irrespective of whether they're on private property. That is the principle around which tree protection and notable trees and scheduled trees, which have been taken out of protected status in this legislation, are protected. And the broader principle is one of that private property is a very useful concept in many ways. I mean, it's a useful way to designate who has rights over certain bits of land, but it has significant limitations when you come to the broader commons. We can't designate biodiversity as private property, just as the Queen's Chain principle, which is a principle this country was founded on after the signing of Te Tiriti, it's just to say you shouldn't be able to own the rivers. The rivers are a collective good and a commons. The oceans are likewise. The atmosphere itself. These are commons that no one can really technically own. Iwi Māori have customary rights to those commons, but they're not private property. This is to elucidate and seek clarification for the Minister on just how radical what has been proposed in this legislation is, because it's applying a principle of private property across things that are the commons, biodiversity being the most exceptional example, but including those trees in our urban areas that we have set and agreed are the most exceptional examples of trees that should be protected irrespective of whether they grow on private property or not, because they are part of the collective good of our whole society. And that is what is so radical about this. I'd like the Minister to comment on just what an inversion it is on the principle contained in things like the Queen's Chain, contained in things like the principle that the biodiversity of our nation does not belong to anyone. None of us has a right to go and kill a tui or a gecko. Why should you be allowed to kill a 300-year-old pahurakawa tree that grows on a bit of property that you happen to own for 7 years?
Mr. Chair. I am looking for that new material, and I do take the point that we are here to debate and to build on contributions made from members and the Minister as well. But please keep it narrow to title.
Okay, the title is the Planning Act, and the Minister just brought back into the conversation the Juliet balconies, and I would let the member know that there was no answer to my question about fixtures and how they compare to Juliet Maidens. And it is related to this being the Planning Act, Mr. Chair, because it is a straw man that this government has put up again and again. They have said to people, oh, those nasty planners, and this goes to why I'm calling it the Anti-Planning Act, they say those nasty planners, they want to tell you where to put the TV. They want to tell you where to put the couch. And then when I ask them for examples of there being consent conditions relevant to fixtures... Storage. I hear storage. I hear Juliet balconies. Those are not fixtures, Mr. Chair. And this is relevant to the straw man that this government has put up to say that somehow this act is about planning, when, unfortunately, the Minister has not listened to my very sensible amendments that have been proposed throughout this. And so instead of it being about planning, it is about costing the ratepayer, Mr. Chair. It is about costing the ratepayer because that is who has to pay for regulatory relief. That's right. Mr. Chair, it is about diminishing Māori involvement in any planning that has happened under the RMA. This Act goes backwards from the RMA. Yes. I did not think that that was a possibility, but here we are. Yes. So that is against planning as well. This Act will lead to more flooding and more stormwater incidents because of the lack of planning, Mr. Chair. This Act will lead to cell phone towers everywhere. Yes. Mr. Chair, because of the impacts on everything to do with visual amenity, and there just been nothing about place. And we've seen that in the document, the national direction that the Minister has been going like this with, waving around. That is the word I'm looking for, waving around, and that will come through as well. So that is anti-planning, and this goes to the title. And we've heard that infrastructure, which has the widest definition possible, anything to do with the economy, so a shop, can be in areas where there are hazards. So this goes to planning as well. It is anti-planning. Why would we want to put a shop? Why would we want to put an early childhood centre in a hazard area? It is anti-planning. It is a disaster. It could have been fixed.
Honourable Mr.
Chair, well, the members just made those points repeatedly throughout the debate and is using the time now around the title to reiterate her view that it is anti-planning. It isn't. The title is the appropriate title for the bill. It is a planning bill. Appreciate the member doesn't like some elements of it. Fine, we've debated that at length, but the title is the appropriate title for the bill. It is a significant part of the government's legislative agenda, but the title literally does what it says on the tin. It is a planning bill which will become a planning act to help New Zealand do spatial plans, combined regional plans, land use plans, natural environment plans, and set New Zealand up for success.
Mr. Chair.
Tom Rutherford.
I move that debate on this question now close.
The question is that debate on this question now close. All those in favour say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Party vote has been called for. The clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
48 in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
Toru te kaumā whāngā pōti whakahe.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Party Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Tāpiti Ferris. Miramano Kapkingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. The question is that clause 1 stand part. All those in favour say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Party vote has been called for. The clerk will conduct the party vote.
New Zealand National.
48 in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
Toru te kaumā whāngā pōti whakahe.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
Act New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Party Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Tāpiti Ferris. Miramano Kapkingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. The question is that Aotearoa Williams' table amendment to the Minister's table amendment to AP number 709, amending clause 2 to amend new subclause 2AA be agreed to. All those in favour say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The noes have it. Party vote has been called for. The clerk will conduct the party vote.
New Zealand National.
48 opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
Toru te kaumā whāngā pōti e whakae ana.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
Act New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 opposed.
Te Party Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Tāpiti Ferris. Miramano Kapkingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that the Minister's table amendment to AP number 709, amending clause 2, be agreed to. All those in favour say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Party vote has been called for. The clerk will conduct the party vote.
New Zealand National.
48 in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
Toru te kaumā whā ngā pōti whakahe.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Opposed vote. 15 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Tāku Te Ferris. Miramana Kapkingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. The question is that the Minister's amendment to clause 2 set out on amendment paper number 709 as amended be agreed to. All those in favour say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Party vote has been called for. The clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
48 in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
Toru te kaumā whā ngā pōti whakahe.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Tāku Te Ferris. Miramana Kapkingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. Huhana Linden's amendment to clause 2, brackets 3, set out on amendment paper number 733 is out of order as being inconsistent with the previous decision of the committee. The question is that Huhana Linden's amendment to clause 2, brackets 1, set out on amendment paper number 733 be agreed to. All those in favour say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The noes have it. Party vote has been called for. The clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
48 opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
Toru te kaumā whā e whakai ana.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes in favour.
ACT New Zealand.
11 opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 opposed.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes in favour.
Tāku Te Ferris. Miramana Kapkingi.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 54, the noes are 67. The question is not agreed to. The question is that clause 2 is amended. Stand part. All those in favour say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. Party vote has been called for. The clerk will conduct the party vote.
New Zealand National.
48 in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
Toru te kaumā whā ngā pōti whakahe.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
11 in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
4 votes opposed.
Tāku Te Ferris. Miramana Kapkingi.
1 vote opposed.
The ayes are 67, the noes are 54. The question is agreed to. I will report this bill with amendment presently. I'm just going to do a bit of a swap. Move on.
You done that?
Okay, give me that as well.
Thank you. Hey, Regan.
Okay. Members, we come now to the Natural Environment Bill. We begin with the debate on Part 1. Part 1, this is the debate on clauses 3 to 10, preliminary provisions, Schedule 1, transitional savings and related provisions, and Schedule 6, statutory acknowledgements. The question is that Part 1 stand part. The Honourable Rachel Brooking.
So part 1 includes the definitions. It also includes the purpose and the Treaty of Waitangi clause and some new clauses related to that, and the rules that contain fishing. So not too many clauses here, but some important ones, including, of course, the purpose. I want to go to my amendment paper, my published amendment paper 686, and this relates to page 25. Oh, sorry, and again,
Did you say 686?
Yes,
Okay.
I did. Sorry, I just had
checking my hearing.
I just had to check. I do have amendment paper 666 coming up as well, but not quite yet.
666?
Yep.
Okay.
Anyway, but I'm not on that one yet.
Heavy metal.
We'll come back to that. So now, I'll start again. I am looking at the Minister's Amendment Paper 710, which is the whole bill, or 710 might be an easier way to say it, which is the whole bill with some amendments that were made late last week. I presume that there's no other amendments from the Minister on this bill?
There's a couple of minor slips.
Couple of minor slips. Well, I'll have a look at the table and find those. But for now, I'm going to talk about the definition of infrastructure. And that is what my amendment paper is about. And, of course, the definition of infrastructure has a "or" in it. So it means a physical structure, facility or network that performs a public function, or, and the "or" is very important because it doesn't need to perform a public function. So it can be something that has no public function, but is necessary to the functioning of the economy. And then there are one or more of the following. So it can just be one. It can just be the functioning of the economy. Infrastructure is now defined as a physical structure necessary to support the functioning of the economy. That is how the definition of infrastructure can be read, and that is very much how I am reading it for this bill, the Natural Environment Bill. And so this seems incredibly wide, particularly as the term infrastructure is used to determine a whole lot of situations around where we'll get to limits and when limits can be avoided, not a limit. But we'll talk about that. So the question is, if the Minister would agree with my amendment paper, published amendment 686, and that is to delete the functioning of the economy so that infrastructure has to either perform a public function or be related to the functioning of communities, the health and safety of people, the protection of the environment. So that is, oh yes, that's...
The Honourable Mr. Chair, we spent about an hour on this during the planning bill and the definition's the same.
Oh, did we?
So yes, we did. So I'm not sure it's really worth the House's time debating the same debate. Well, that is an issue of debate, but not really part of this part. That goes to the structure. Well, it goes to the structure of the overall approach, which is for the various different readings rather than the part-by-part analysis. So we have debated this at length. The definition of infrastructure is broad to recognise a range of infrastructure needs, support long-term planning, and avoid disputes over whether particular assets qualify as infrastructure. Decisions about the priority given to infrastructure and the rules that apply to it are determined obviously through national instruments and plans. And before the member asks, yes, green infrastructure is captured in the definition of it, and we debated this at length about 24 hours ago. Infrastructure includes a natural feature that is modified to perform certain functions, for example, a wetland that is modified to act as stormwater retention to reduce flooding. This change was made by the Select Committee to ensure green infrastructure was included in the definition of infrastructure. And I wasn't on the Select Committee, but I suspect the member was advocating for precisely that change, which is an example of the collaborative and collegial way the Environment Select Committee worked its way through the issues.
Just before I take the next call, this bill will be treated as a new bill. For those who are watching, for those who subsequently will need to look at comments in the Hansard, and so from the Chair's point of view, will be treated as though it is a new, it is what it is, which is a new bill here, and those on my left are fully entitled to examine it as they will any other bill. The Honourable Rachel Brooking.
Thank you for that clarification as well. That's very useful because, of course, we may have debated things 24 hours ago, maybe even more than 24 hours ago. I don't know. I've lost track of time.
24 hours ago today.
But it is also, even regardless of that, the definition of infrastructure is important for this bill, for this natural environment bill, because it goes to, we will get into the limits later. And I appreciate the Minister's preemptive strike on green infrastructure, and indeed that is a good change. And I would just say that government members should listen to me more frequently. Thank you. So I'm going to give them an opportunity to do that right now. And that is to go to clause 4, which is the purpose. And I have an amendment paper 688. And that would be to change the purpose. And I am very happy to admit to the House that this purpose has been plagiarised from advice that the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment has given. And that is to make the purpose an actual purpose clause rather than talking about a framework. But I am pleased that the purpose clause does talk about the enhancement of the natural environment. That is a good word to be included in the purpose. But the amendment paper is to change it to the purpose of this Act is to maintain and improve the natural environment and safeguard human health, provide for the adaptation to climate change effects, manage risk of natural hazards and inform planning under the Planning Act. And that informing planning under the Planning Act, and I've got some amendments later as well that go to trying to integrate these two pieces of legislation that we are talking about, one bill after the other, but they are in separate bills and they are going to have term after term that repeats, which I just think is stupid and entirely inefficient, and I don't know why anybody would want to do that, unless they are hell-bent on trying to end integrated management. And I would say that is where I think the ACT Party sits on this, but I would have thought better from the National Party. So this purpose is a way to help integrate those two bills and to talk to how they talk to each other. And I'm happy to amend my amendment so that rather than improve the natural environment, it's to enhance, if we think that enhance is better than improve. But the Minister could comment on both my suggested purpose change and also the integration of these two bills, noting that the natural environment is not some magical other that is outside of our cities or our built environments. That when we go outside of this building, there are trees. When we go outside of this building, there is rain, there is air pollution, and that is still, and I mean, just like one step outside of the building, we have these impacts. So that is why it's good to think of them all together and to have integrated management. Thank you.
Lan Farm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And like my colleague Rachel Brooking, I really appreciate the clarification about how important it is that we treat this bill with the respect it deserves, given the serious implications for the entire country. And I think, the points that my colleague has made about it being nonsensical that these bills are split in the first instance this is just one example of why that is the case and why everyone who interacts with these bills across the whole of the planning sector is going to find the same issue, where they feel like there's confusion, there's repetition, there's complications, and that's what we heard resoundingly from submitters. Now, to begin with, I wanted to pick up on something in the definitions because I have an amendment paper about it later in the actual Act. But what I want to touch on is the definition of interim limit. And so this is on page 25 of the Minister's amendment. My impression is that everyone wants a resource management system that actually gets us somewhere. And one of the huge disappointments that came with the changes during select committee stages was just this constant delay, pushing things out. And we've seen it again with the minister's last minute amendments and changes to Plan Change 1 and Plan Change 2. Oh, sorry, stopping them in their tracks, I should say. Everything is pushed back. Even in those instances, the dates for when the planning system may be in place is around 2032 or 2033. And at that stage, these so-called interim limits are just at decade-long intervals. So my question for the minister is, why was it the government's decision that they so deliberately wanted to push out even the interim limits to 10 years? I mean, it's actually extraordinary in terms of claiming that there is a want and a desire to actually improve things when even the interim limits will be that far in the future. So really interested to hear that. The next aspect I want to touch on is, of course, the purpose. And I'm noting my colleague Rachel Brooking's amendment to simply put in place some basic direction that the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment has encouraged us to do. But I want to also bring up the fact that we had an independent KC advise us at Select Committee on the purposes of the two bills. And she was absolutely clear and has in her advice to us that the purposes will not guide or influence decision making. Now, that should be a concern. That should be an absolute concern for the minister, for the government, that there is not clear purposes in these bills. Now, we've had on the table, and we have on the table right now, directions in terms of options for the minister to actually listen to this, to pick it up and decide that he wants to improve things. And I want to specifically touch on one of the amendment papers that is in the name of my colleague, Huhana Linden. And this is changing the purpose at clause 4. Instead of it being so nothing to simply establish a framework, which doesn't do anything, we're proposing that the purpose of the Act is actually to manage the environment in a way that protects and restores the health of the natural environment. It safeguards the life-supporting capacity of air, water, soil and ecosystems, and provides for the use and development of the environment in a way that actually promotes the well-being of both present and future generations within limits. Because what else is the point? And I'd love the Minister to respond to, particularly the Mr. Chair, I'll just finish up that point, thank you. I'd love to hear the Minister respond to the fact that there is not an intergenerational approach to these bills. Can he please address that? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Well, just dealing with the last objection first. I mean, you don't need to have intergenerational language in the purpose clause to have intergenerational impacts. So I reject that. Let me just take the issues raised by both Ms Brooking and Ms Farm in relation to purpose. I mean, the member sat through the select committee process. I mean, I'm a bit surprised to hear her say the purpose clause doesn't do anything, it won't have an effect, etc. That's the point. Like, that is the point of the government's purpose clause. That is the point. She sat through hours of select committee hearings. We had a debate around the same provisions on the purpose. The whole point is that it's a descriptive framework clause. We've sort of been there, done that on this issue. The whole point is that we wish to avoid the endless litigation about the purpose clause in the new system. So the RMA's approach of sustainable management and the purpose, etc., endless debate around that, that's the approach we're deliberately trying to steer away from. So it's a descriptive purpose clause in the Natural Environment Bill as it is in the Planning Bill. The problem with her amendment paper, which I've looked at, is that it just, I mean, it's even worse than the RMA in the sense that it just conflates a whole lot of different concepts and just like shoves them in the purpose clause. It would be a recipe for endless litigation and debate and complications. So that deals with Ms Brookings and Ms Farm's questions around that. In relation to interim limits, Mr Chair, she asked why 10 years. Interim limits are a tool for when a limit is breached, and 10 years is to align with plan making. Because plans are done every 10 years, so the interim limits can be done every 10 years. The interim limits are used when a limit is breached. I actually see them as a step forward because they're wayfinders along the way, right? They're interim on the way to the limits. And to the member's last statement, and to return to the start of it, in terms of intergenerational, limits are going to be something that you achieve over the long term. I mean, the starting point is the RMA doesn't have limits. The Natural Environment Bill is going to have limits across a variety of environmental domains. That is a massive step forward. And I appreciate the member doesn't think they go far enough. There'll be others in the community who think the same thing, but there'll be others equally on the other side of the debate who don't think we should have limits at all. So the member wants very strict environmental limits, probably immediately. A lot of people don't want limits at all. We've reached a position in the middle, and I think it's a good step forward for the country. And as I've said multiple times, we should have economic development and growth within limits, and that's what this bill sets up.
Land Farm.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Just to pick up on...
Point of order. Rachel Brooking.
Yes, just before we had a quick interaction about amendments and which amendment papers we were looking at, and we're looking at this amendment paper 710, and the Minister indicated that there were some small amendment papers. I've just been to the table and I have not been able to find...
They're coming. They're extremely minor PCO drafting things.
Okay, but they're not on the table yet?
No, I don't believe so, no.
Okay, thank you. That is the answer to my question.
A point of order.
Legitimate point of order. Land Farm.
Speaking to the point of order, Mr Chair, is it possible for us to be, for the Minister when they do come in, just for him to alert us? Because sometimes officials come in very quietly, but I mean, I'd be really keen to see those amendments. Would that be appropriate?
Yeah, I can tell you.
Thank you. And Mr Chair.
Land Farm.
Thank you. Just responding to the Minister's comments around interim limits, he's saying they're a stepping stone, and yet stepping stones would be within the plan timeframes. The fact is, with these 10-year limits, they are at the edge of the 10-year planning cycles. So I'm not sure how that is possibly an improvement and how they are stepping stones when they are at the edge of the timeline that is actually available. So I'm really interested to hear the Minister.
What I just said. I've answered that question.
So you're comfortable with just pushing it out?
They're interim. They're interim limits.
So take the example, Minister, of the changes in Plan Change 1 in the Waikato. So that plan will be in place in, say, 2033. Your explanation documents make that clear. That will have an interim limit of 2043.
No.
Why are you shaking your head, Minister? That is the actual implications of what you're proposing here. I'm not sure why he's shaking it. Why are you shaking your head, Minister?
I'm not saying anything.
The Honourable Rachel Brooking.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Yes, I don't know what's happening with the shaking of the head either, but when I was just talking about Clause 4 and the purpose, and the Minister said, I don't know why you guys weren't listening in Select Committee. The whole point is not to have a purpose, really. Well, we were listening in Select Committee, and we did listen to the advice of our independent KC. that is a, very fancy lawyer. And we did listen to many submissions on this topic as well. And they told us, and it does go into part 2, which are the goals as well, but that relationship between the two acts, between the two purposes, between the goals, sets up the whole regime for failure. It is a hot mess, Mr. Chair. And that hot mess is going to result in exactly what the Minister doesn't want, and that is endless litigation. It is going to be great for resource management lawyers, Mr. Chair, and no one else. Oh no, polluters. It'll be good for polluters as well. That's who this is going to be good for. So I'm surprised that the Minister is refusing to engage with that point, that the Select Committee heard advice after advice, that his purpose clauses, his framework purpose clauses, and this hot list of goals in 2 different acts, they won't do what his stated objective is, which is to reduce litigation. And he said, as a counterfactual, I guess, oh look, the Resource Management Act had a whole lot of litigation around its purpose clause. And that is correct. I do not disagree with the Minister. There was a lot of litigation around the purpose clause of the RMA, and it is now settled. So if the Minister really wants to avoid court action, he could import the purpose clause of the RMA. He could import sustainable management and words like well-being and future generations. That could come in to this legislation if he really wants to reduce litigation. And of course, Mr. Speaker and Mr. Chair, I remember being in that chair that the Minister is in over 3 years ago, and members who were then on this side of the House ridiculing any changes in language that we made to the purposes in the Natural and Built Environment Act, because it was going to create a whole lot of litigation, they said. That was their main argument. The other argument they gave was that it was too long. These were the 2 substantive arguments that I heard against the Natural and Built Environment Act. Now he is going in totally the opposite direction. So how is it? Has he got advice that the Select Committee did not see, that somehow, magically, all the fancy lawyers are wrong, and that in fact there will be no work for them to do, and that litigation will reduce because this purpose clause is so weak?
Well, Madam Chair, the easy answer to that is that the funnel system designed, that is the design of this bill and also the planning bill, comes out of the work by Jeanette Campbell, who chaired the expert advisory group alongside other RMA practitioners, planners. There was a freshwater expert and a housing expert on the committee, on the group who did it. So I appreciate the members got a view, and I respect her obviously as a former resource management lawyer. But yeah, I know that. I'm just making the point that I respect her view and the views of others, but I respectfully disagree, and there are plenty of people who will say that as well. We're deliberately trying to, if you just go back to the beginning, the RMA's approach of the very broad purpose clause and the litigation over it, which she accepts has happened, has not worked. So after 30 years, trying to try something new. And what we've gone for is a framework-based approach, a descriptive clause in which we don't have all of the debate up in the clause 3 of this ginormous statute, which dictates everything else that happens down at an individual consenting level. You should not have to go and prove that you're complying with 14 different national policy statements, some of which conflict, and regional policy statements, and have a debate with your local council about whether or not doing simple things complies with clause 3 of some bill you've never heard or an act you've never heard of. The point is to design the funnel. We've talked about this at length. Start with a purpose clause which doesn't do very much, goals that govern the setting of the national direction, and then the combined plans, land use plans, natural environment plans below that, down at an individual consenting level, standards in there to help along the journey. It is, I guess, just like a fundamental disagreement. I haven't heard the member who's asked multiple questions about this. I haven't heard her outline an alternative approach to that. I suppose the NBEA was an alternative approach alongside the Spatial Planning Act, but as the member adverts to in her own remarks just then, one of our criticisms in opposition was that approach was just reiterating and repeating the same mistakes of the RMA. So I appreciate there's a kind of legislative architectural design difference here, which is important, but we stand by the new approach we are taking, which has been based on extensive advice from not just the expert advisory group, but also extensive advice from a very hard-working team at MFE and now MCER.
Honourable Rachel Brooking.
In response to that then, is the Minister saying that the RMA purpose, the litigation, we both accept that there's been a lot of litigation around that, is he saying that that has not now been resolved, that it remains unresolved? Because we've been talking in this House recently about the King Salmon case, and it seems very much that the purpose and where the purpose sits within the RMA has been resolved. If you have those higher order documents, then you do not need to go back to the purpose. And the Minister says, well, I haven't heard anything from you. But, well, he should read my amendment papers for a start. And I need to start this part of the contribution by saying I totally agree that one of the major problems we have in our system at the moment is that too much of the activity is consent by consent. So that is, we were trying to change that in our reforms as well. That is a problem. There is no disagreement about that. We do need to have a much more efficient system that moves those trade-off decisions up, away from consent by consent, into the plans, into the national direction. That I totally agree on. However, where my amendments come in is on the advice of all these people that came to the Select Committee, and that is to have a stronger purpose that informs how the legislation is to work, and goals that have some semblance of a hierarchy. Because at the moment, and I've done that, we'll get to that in the next part, it's a very inelegant way of doing it, and I'm very happy to, if anybody else wants to do amendments on that, very happy to change approach. But the objective is to be, to not have decisions at the consent level going back to any purpose statement, any goals, anything like that, because it should come down the system of the national direction and the plans, so that the consents don't need to get involved in that discussion, that argument. The problem with this Act and what the Minister, these bills and what the Minister was just talking about, is that it is ministerial discretion that informs all of that hierarchy. All of that conflict goes to the ministerial discretion. And so that then will sit at the top of the system, and if that gets wrong, then it will come down, funnels down, like a spinning top. You move the spinning top around, and what happens when it wobbles? The whole thing falls over. So that is a problem with this legislation. This is not me speaking from a policy position of, oh, we need to change the legislation to do better for waterways. I'd like to do that as well, but I'm putting that to one side now. This is just an efficiency systems issue. And the Minister has not dealt with it, and it's a real problem. And we had expert after expert saying this, and I think he should consider some of my amendments, which, as I said, I'm happy to have them amended. They are suggestions of how to fix this structural problem with this bill. Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Land Farm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to pick up specifically on Clause 8, Treaty of Waitangi, Tiriti o Waitangi, and 9 and 10. So this is about upholding treaty settlements and the Crown's obligations in this space. And throughout the select committee process, we heard incredibly strong submissions from iwi and hapu, from post-settlement entities, about how offensive, how the word that I think it was Waikato Tainui used was how the pushing through of these bills would eviscerate Crown Māori relationships. And a big part of that was the fact that the bills would be rushed through, as they have been, and so many provisions in them have such serious implications for treaty settlements in particular, let alone, implications for the broader environment and the connection of mana whenua with te taiao environment. So what I'm really interested in is, why was it not the case that the government took seriously those submissions and actually held this off, given how serious the implications are, to get to a point with iwi Māori where there was much more of a collective drive to actually work together on making this a functional system. Because throughout all of this bill, and the planning bill is the same, but it actually at least has some decent bits in it, we're seeing total dysfunction. And we even heard today at Environment Select Committee, Te Ruranga o Ngaitahu were presenting on a different bill, the Conservation Amendment Bill. But even there they referenced how offensive these bills have been in terms of their exercise of rangatiratanga in their rohe. Now, to make some form of basic amendment, my colleague Hannah Linden has an amendment paper to introduce just some basic strong direction to give effect to te tiriti that is consistent with that from the Natural and Built Environment Act in 2023. And we know that this is a better place to be in because it actually had some form of buy-in from iwi Māori, and I'd really like to hear the Minister's response to that in particular. If he wants to respond now, I can wait till I go to the next one.
Honourable
Thank you.
Minister.
Well, I don't have a huge amount more to say than what I've already said, which is we've worked really hard to be very particular about the role of Maori in the planning system and the environment system and the new bills. We specifically and very deliberately did not go for a what I've called a generic treaty principles clause. As I've said repeatedly, both inside the House and outside the House, Parliament's failure to actually articulate what it is trying to do is partly what's led to the angst and difficulties that we've experienced in that whole debate. So there is a treaty clause in this bill, but it's not a generic treaty principles clause in which we hand it over to the courts and say good luck. We've actually been very clear about what the role of iwi Māori is in the system. In relation to settlements, which is a related but separate issue, I just take issue with the idea that this bill's been rushed through. The bill is having its committee stage under urgency, but the bill spent a considerable length of time at the Environment Select Committee. There were endless submissions that did a really good job working their way through. The second readings a few weeks ago have now got the committee stage, and when they're eventually done, we will get on to the third reading. It's just followed a standard, ordinary parliamentary process. So I accept the bills are complicated and they're important, but I resist the idea that they are being rushed through in the same way that I resist the idea that they are eviscerating Maori-Crown relations. So, for example, in the bills, we have reached agreements in relation to the preservation and upholding of settlements with the River Iwi, Tūturi Whaimana, and likewise Ngāti Porou and related arrangements in the Whanganui River, and those are listed in the bills. There's still a bit of work to do with other iwi, obviously, but this is not a problem that has been It's not a problem that is new to this government. I mean, this same problem afflicted the previous government, to be honest, when it came to the Natural Built Environment Act and the Spatial Planning Act. And the great challenge is how you give effect to settlements that were signed in the age of the RMA, and when you're the planning and the environmental statute, and you're changing the underlying statutes. And there are some people, as I said in the previous debate, there are some people who say that, well, that's just the way it is. You've locked in formaldehyde, the RMA. That can't be true as a proposition of law, and it can't be true in principle. So we are changing the underlying statute, which is fine. And then the question is, well, how do you make sure that the Crown's upholding its settlements? It's actually in the coalition documents between the three parties that make up the government that we uphold treaty settlements. They are very solemn legal agreements that the Crown has entered into, and that's why Clause 9 is there, to say the Crown to seek to enter agreements to uphold treaty settlement redress or arrangements. The Crown must, etc. And then there's Clause 10, which means that treaty settlement redress will operate with the same or equivalent effect to the greatest extent possible. Now, obviously, that's a judgment as to what that means. It's a contextual-based judgment, it's a fact-based judgment as to the precise circumstances you're talking about, and there's a bit of work to do around that, but it's a good faith, it's a best endeavours, good faith legal obligation on the Crown and decision makers operating under the new statute to make sure that we're upholding treaty settlements. I've spent a considerable amount of time talking to iwi leaders and talking to rangatira in iwi Maori about this issue, and you know, if you go back to Cook's dicta, good faith counts for a lot, and that's what we're trying to do.
Helen White.
Chair, first of all, I'd just like to say I'm thrilled I'm an employment lawyer, having tried to come to grips with this particular area of law. And so I want to ask about the clauses that talk about the schedules. There's a decision that's been made that under Clause 5, that the schedules are actually references straight to schedules in the Planning Act. I wondered how unusual that was as a method, rather than having its own schedules, because I hadn't come across it before. And I appreciate the area is complex, but it doesn't seem good practice that you would have to go beyond this Act to find schedules that relate and are binding upon it. And then my understanding is the second part, Schedule 11 of the Planning Act, is also relevant, and that will be because of transitions around the RMA. But I just wanted to really ask what process the Minister had been through in terms of deciding that those schedules would be in another Act rather than perhaps even arduously copied and pasted into this one, and how whether that was a practice that was followed from other pieces of legislation. I appreciate they're related to each other. This is highly unusual, and we're trying to allow people to be able to get to grips with the law without the involvement of lawyers, and I'm finding it rather difficult.
Yeah, well, fair enough, because it's a good question. The advice is it's unusual but efficient, and it is. Because it means you don't have to. Well, it's efficient for everybody. Well, hang on a minute. Come on. You know how most people read laws these days. No one goes and looks up the actual physical statute. Only old fuddy-duddies have physical copies of statutes in their offices. The vast bulk of lawyers will look at it online. And you've got the crosstabs and the clicks, and you just click the schedule and it brings you up the Planning Act schedule. The PCO's built a whole new website. It's meeting rave reviews, by the way, I'm told. The new PCO legislative reading thing, whatever it's called. Yeah, okay, all right. But anyway, my point is it's efficient, so you have to repeat it all. So it's unusual, but the short answer is, to be honest, I didn't have a role on that. So policy decisions are made by ministers and cabinet. The drafting is done by the legal beagles, the excellent drafters at the Parliamentary Council Office. Thankfully, I am not a legislative drafter.
Honourable Rachel Brooking.
I just want to start on a positive note for this contribution. Won't last for long, but I too am very pleased that I am not a parliamentary drafter and would like to congratulate those parliamentary drafters for the amazing work that they do. Now, I wanted to go back to some remarks that the Minister was making about the equivalence clauses and in response to the treaty clause, so 8 and 9, before moving on to 10A. And he said, he uses some formaldehyde metaphor that I'm not sure I totally understand, but his point is, I think, that you must be able to, I'll start again. If you have a treaty settlement and that treaty settlement refers to clauses in the RMA, you must still be able to change the RMA despite the fact that those clauses are mentioned in the treaty settlement. And I agree with that proposition. But then he says, and that is an issue that the last government had as well, and that is true. However, the difference between this equivalence and our equivalence is that all of the other provisions in the legislation that undermine what the RMA was doing in terms of both environmental protections, and we'll get into that limits argument later, but also Māori involvement provisions throughout the different pieces of legislation. So we have that change at clause 8. There's some specific requirement, but there's no equivalent to the RMA, which is to take into account the principles of the treaty. We would give effect to, but the take into account is gone. Section 6E, which talks about Māori interests in land and water and taonga, that is not replicated fully in these reforms. There is not the equivalent of the mana whakahona o rohe. There is section 33, transfers have gone, joint partnerships, they've gone too. So all of these instruments that are in the RMA, that were in our reforms, they have gone. And so when the Minister says, well, equivalence is an issue that both Labour had to deal with and this government had to deal with, that was a very different context, Mr. Chair, and context does matter. So we have had, and we had many submitters, iwi submitters, say that the equivalence cannot work with those wider settings of these laws, which is why you either need to do a whole lot of new section 10As, or, well, that's only for settled iwi, or you need to bring back those provisions. You need to bring back section 6E. You need to bring back the mana whakahona o rohe provisions. You need to bring back the section 33 transfers. But instead, that is not what this government is doing. So my question to the Minister on this point is, does he agree that this legislation goes backwards from the Resource Management Act on Māori participation? And of course, there's no, in our reforms as well, very different from these, mana whenua representatives were at the table in the making of the plans. And of course, that has all gone backwards as well. But whether RMA might be here with Māori participation, we were over here. And my question is, does he agree that this legislation is on the other side of that participation spectrum, which goes to equivalence? I won't say that. That's my question. I'll come to another one in a minute.
Madam Chair, that is a judgment that others will make. It's not a one that I intend to make. All I'll say is what I said 2 or 3 times now, which is that we're trying to make it clear where everyone's role in the system is and what the areas for them, what the areas that should be focused on. And I think we've been pretty clear about what those roles are, far clearer than the RMA and other statutes or other bills in the past.
Just for anyone watching at home, the Minister's frequent references to Madam Chair, I can assure them I'm Mr Chair.
Sorry.
Maria Mino Kapakingi.
Mr Chair.
I might be one of those fuddy-duddies, believe it or not, that does have a hard copy of a Children, Young Persons and Their Families Act actually at my house. So I do fit in there somewhere, just as a comment to the Minister. Te Tiriti o Waitangi settlements piece, I do want to make some comments and then a question. So, Minister, you might have heard me, or Mr Chair, actually, you may have heard I used an expression in the previous debate, which the feelings of that same which want me to make that statement, but I won't, because I think it's probably already settled in the minds of people sitting in the House today. But interests, Māori interests, words like that, the implications that will come from that will fall differently on Māori, hapu and iwi. And I do hear, Minister, I do hear this an intent in you when you're responding, and I am responding to that in a a kindly way at this point anyway, because the context matters hugely. I just heard Rachel Brooking make that same statement. It matters hugely, and I hear that you are, you've expressed that you're meeting with as many and meeting with rangatira and iwi leaders and those things, and I do, and I think those are good things. But honestly, the bigger context of this is this last 3 years has been absolutely horrible for Māori. Just horrible. So the thing that's missing the most, which I think is fundamental to what you will need and we will need, is trust. And it's just simply not there. It's been its lowest. In fact, not only for Māori, for many, but definitely for Māori. Definitely for Māori, the trust is so low because the harm has been an accumulated harm. And when you're dealing with those dynamics, it is the responses, Minister, that you may have gotten and feel a little bit of comfort in as you move forward this way is I would imagine it's even just the tolerance that Māori have gotten to be able to have certain conversations to get something moving. But there's such a high level of tolerance on this side of this battle, and I'm talking about hapu, and I'm talking about iwi Māori and communities Māori in general, Minister. The trust is so low. My question then is now the time to do this? Is now the right time to bring this through? Honestly, is it? I'm keen to get a real sense of it from you personally as well as politically, because I think that's what our whānau are saying, and this is what our hapu, when I go back to our marae committees, they're like, Minos, this we cannot trust virtually anything that's been said. We might nod and go, look, yeah, let's keep going. But in fact, the deeper conversations that are had when the time is given to those, Minister, I can tell you, I can assure you that trust is so low and tolerance on our side is so high. Is this the right time? Is now the time? So can I leave that, and thank you for that, Mr Chair.
Honourable Minister.
Madam Mr Chair, I know. Sorry. Mr Chair, couple of brief comments. The question was, is now the right time to do this? The answer in the government's view is yes, where a planning system has held New Zealand back for far too long, and it's held iwi Māori back from using their whenua back for far too long. Some of the more enjoyable conversations I have with iwi around the country is the strictures of the RMA that are getting in the way of development. And as my good friend Matua Tuku says to me all the time, he says, we've got economic interests too. We're farmers. We've got developments. They got the Ruakura. They know all too well about the RMA. I mean, ask Ngāi Tahu about Hananui aquaculture. The last government, set aside some settlement area for a salmon farm, and there was a big show and tell and song and dance about it in 2021, I think it was. And everyone got very excited, and then they rocked off to the Environment Court to get a consent to do the salmon farm. They got turned down.
Do you know, since we did the commercial aquaculture settlement back in 06, I think it was, not a single area of Maori commercial aquaculture has been developed. Not a single one. Not one. When I discovered that, I got furious about it. And frankly, I think it's a disgrace. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. And just as an aside, I find it baffling that the Waitangi Tribunal is spending endless years on the kaupapa Maori housing inquiry, for example. And I'm the Minister of Housing, and I know all too well about the issues we have with housing in this country, including affecting Maori. We don't need 5 years' worth of work and endless millions of dollars on it. What is a contemporary breach in New Zealand? 20 years of the Crown saying, yeah, great, aquaculture is amazing and we'll help you settle your claims and develop these areas. And 20 years on, the planning system has not let that happen. That, to me, is a contemporary breach of the treaty. It's disgusting. Disgusting. And anyway, the good news is Hananui Aquaculture, which is hundreds of millions of dollars of salmon farms in Rakiura, Stewart Island, has now got fast-track consent. Which everyone said was going to be a disaster for Maori and disaster for the environment. It's now got fast-track consent, and they'll be getting on with that. So it's great news. But here's my challenge. How do we design a system so that there's not just Hananui, that the legitimate aspirations of iwi at the top of the south, for example, around aquaculture are given effect to, and there's others as well. Tainui at Ruakura and the developments in the Waikato. Think about Tūwharetoa. Think about Ngāi Tahu and its various different takiwā. You think about, well, it's not, I mean, I don't want to list them specifically, but any post-settlement governance entity with aspirations, as they all have when I meet with them, to look after their people and provide jobs and prosperity, how do we give effect to those aspirations? And the answer is so often, as it is with everybody else, not just about iwi Maori, it's about the planning system, which has not allowed for enough growth and development and prosperity. So my message to Maori is the same as it is for everybody else, which is that we can have a planning system that is far more enabling of growth. We just have to choose it. And that's what this government is choosing to do. And we think we've got the balance right when it comes to Maori interests, which the members can see laid out in 8, 9 and 10, and it's the same as it is in the planning bill, and we'll continue to stand by those decisions.
Well, that was a very broad-based contextual question and a justified broad response, but from henceforth we need to get just a little bit tighter, please, on these questions. The Honourable Dr. Duncan Webb.
That's me, thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually have quite a narrow question, in fact very narrow, around Clause 6, because I just can't quite get my head around Clause 6.2a. So this is an important clause, the Act binds the Crown, so the Crown and its activities is subject to the constraints of this bill. So that's your subsection 1, subclause 1, this Act binds the Crown except as provided sort of below. And then subsection 2, this Act does not apply to any work or activity of the Crown that is a use of the land within the meaning given in section 17. So I went to have a look at section 17, and it doesn't give a meaning of a use of land. It gives a description of restrictions on land use, and the two, that subclause 2, to my mind, subclause 2a just does not marry with Clause 17, because Clause 17 says essentially a person can't use land in a manner that contravenes a national rule or a rule in a plan or a proposed plan unless it's expressly allowed by a permit or other exceptions. But nowhere does it, I can't see the body of land use or the group of uses that is exempt that is exempt under Section 2A. So it is quite important, because if an authority is going to, essentially prosecute the Crown or an instrument of the Crown entity, for breaching something in this Act, except the use within the meaning given in Section 17, we need to say, well, the meaning, it's just the language is terrible. The use of the land within the meaning in Section 17 is this use. So, and I see you've got advice. Either it's just clumsy drafting that's going to have to come out a bit later on, or it's something's gone wrong.
Honourable Rachel Brooking.
Now, I do want to respond to some of the comments made by the Minister, which may be more wide-ranging, but he did make them. And that is about the Huanui, the aquaculture near Aotearoa, Stewart Island. And I think what the Minister was doing was he was saying he was angry about aquaculture settlements, and that's a good thing to be concerned about. But he was using this as an example, and the Minister does this a lot, of using a straw man to say, well, because it didn't get consent under the RMA, that means that the RMA is terrible and needs to end and we need to replace it. I would like the Minister to consider if in fact that was made under a version of a fast-track consent, and that some of the speed of that decision making led to a decision that said, well, we don't have enough information on biodiversity and the impact on the hoiho, a very threatened, very special penguin, particularly as they like to hang out in Aotearoa in my electorate. We're concerned about that, and there were time constraints in that decision-making process, and also there were some landscape effects. Now, I know that these bills in combination will change the landscape effects, and I'm not arguing with the Minister on that in this case, but if there was a very real question about biodiversity, is he saying that that first application should have been approved, even though the time limits and everything else pointed to issues with that biodiversity? And that goes to this Act, because this is the Natural Environment Bill. And was that decision made under the RMA? And he's then talking about his fast track, which is not this legislation. So is he saying as well that he thinks that type of application that another body felt had some issues with the amount of information provided, and I'm not commenting on whether that was right or wrong, that information wouldn't be required under this legislation?
No, I'm not saying that.
Well, it sounded like the Minister might have been. Anyway, I'm going to turn it to a different issue, and that is that the Minister was saying in relation to a question from Land Farm, that in fact this legislation wasn't rushed. And why is she saying that things are rushed? But, Mr Chair, we are looking at an amendment paper that we got late last week, and there are significant changes in this amendment paper. So I do challenge him on saying that, there's absolutely been no rush. And we are here, of course, in committee stage, and we were sitting till midnight last night, and we were here.
18 hours on the first
We
bill,
are
it's not a
here
rush.
at 9 o'clock in the morning. So this is going through a process, and I don't think he should diminish the amount of changes that have been made subsequent to the Select Committee report back. And I have two questions on 10A to Te Rere Whai Mana. And I accept what we've heard about that there's been some talks with the Waikato River iwi to implement this. I have no problem. But the question is, should there be more of these Section 10As? I know there's some Ngāti Porou, and the Minister mentioned, I think he mentioned the Whanganui River, I'm not sure where that is. But is this the device, is this the mechanism that needs to get round the problem that I was talking about earlier over the equivalence, when these bills are not equivalent even to the RMA? Is the mechanism more of these specific clauses like 10A? That's one question. And then a second question is in relation to, I haven't got the still any amendments coming, but there were amendments in the other bill to plan changes that relate to these water bodies, how much pollution can go into the river that's under control. And that is also rushed. That is going to my rushed point, and how those changes interact with these new provisions I think is important. I understand that that was in the other bill. However, I'm going to talk about it now very briefly because Mr. Chair, thank you.
Rachel Brooker.
Because Schedule 1 refers back to the schedules in the Planning Act, the Planning Bill, as it is, I think I am able to refer to it. And so we have these changes to those plan changes, and we have heard on this side of the House that that River Authority is not happy with the pause on the plan change that would reduce would reduce pollution. So if you pause the plan change, then that's going to increase pollution. That's a very basic way of thinking about it, but I think it's accurate. So the Minister has come to us with this 10A and said we've had these sensible discussions, as we should, in good faith, good. But then, on the other hand, we are saying, but all the regulation is going to lead to more pollution, which is going to undermine this very agreement. So how in the world does that work? So a number of questions there. One is, should there be more 10A equivalents? Second one is this pause on the plan change going to result in more pollution, and does that in effect undermine this 10A? He didn't answer me if he agrees that, well, maybe he says he can confirm whether he says to my question of does this legislation go backwards from the RMA in terms of Māori participation? He says, well, it's more specific in the clause 8. Sure, but it doesn't have a whole lot of other things in it. So does he agree it goes backwards with my premise? And then if he wants to comment on whether his straw man of the Rakiura aquaculture, what exactly it is in this legislation, not the fast track, in this legislation that would enable that activity,
yep.
And if that has to do with reducing consents and conditions and considerations of biodiversity or not. That's very important. I love the hoi-ho.
Yep. Mr. Chair.
Honourable Minister.
Just on Rakiura, I wasn't saying it should have been granted consent under the RMA. I'm not the factual decision maker on that. I was just making the generic point that there was a deep irony about everyone making a song and dance about the commercial aquaculture settlement of 2021 or whenever it was, and then it got turned down under the RMA. I'm not saying it should have been. I'm not super familiar with the case. I'm just making the point that we want to see development of aquaculture, and people who are involved in that industry, including Ngāi Tahu themselves and other groups, would say to you the RMA has been a massive stumbling block, partly why we're changing it. So I wasn't trying to pre-decide the outcome of anything like that. In relation to Duncan Webb's question, I'm advised that the provisions he was talking about are rollovers from the RMA directly. In relation to Te Ture Whaimana, Section 10A, or Clause 10A, is included because of the Kingitanga Accord requirement to consider Te Ture Whaimana clauses. It's a highly complex and unique arrangement, and we're not considering any more specifically like 10A. In relation to some of her other questions, it is true to say that the River Iwi are not happy about the decisions we've made around PC1, but the government is in a genuine bind on this, and I met with the River Iwi many times over this issue. We're in a genuine bind because we do wish to change the resource management system, the planning system, and we wish to do that in an expeditious and practical way. And of course, PC1 is coming to the end of its process just as the system is changing. And so the path we've taken is essentially a middle path, is to say we'll just tie-ho for a bit, hold off on that while we change the underlying system architecture, but use the work that's already been done on PC1 as the basis for the new natural environment plan in the new system. Not everyone is happy about that, I accept that. Some people are very happy about it, other people are not. But it's one of those invidious decisions that ends up on ministers' desks and government's desks that you have to make, and we stand by that decision.
Land Farm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And look, I want to acknowledge the minister's changes to the bills when it comes to Te Turu Whai Manawa, because I think, they are at least this bottom line semi-safeguard, if you can kind of call them that, given the broader picture of the retreat from environmental protections. But it is quite extraordinary to hold that with, as the minister mentions, the kibosh that the government has just put on Plan Change 1. And I acknowledge that the minister is saying, this can all be picked up in the new system, but it's very clear that the timeframes on that are going to get us nowhere fast. And in fact, it's likely we're going to go backwards. What I want to move on to, Mr. Chair, is Clause 10B. And these are the rules that control fishing. Now, this, again, was part of the last-minute amendments that came into place just at the end of last week. And the implications, as far as I understand them, is that fishing impacts when it comes to Indigenous biodiversity in the marine environment are now beyond the jurisdiction of councils being able to set rules to actually protect that biodiversity, marine biodiversity. And it means that those places that have since put in place protections post the Motiti decision are likely to have those revisited. Now, what I'm interested to hear from the minister is what specifically happens to those areas with those existing marine protections. So we're talking Northland, Bay of Plenty, Marlborough. Do they remain in place? And once these new plans come in, do they have to then remove them, or is there ability for them to somehow use something in the acts to actually mean that they have some form of continuation? The aspect that I'm really interested in hearing from the minister about is there's an argument that we can, instead of relying on the protections of these planning and natural environment bills, we can instead rely on the Fisheries Act. Now, we've seen demonstrated time and time again that the Fisheries Act, it's often usually when the fisheries are at the point of collapse, when the Fisheries Act has enough impetus in it for things to actually change. It doesn't also deal with broader effects of fishing, such as natural character. It doesn't deal with life supporting capacity or the maintenance of Indigenous biodiversity, and it has absolutely no relationship to climate change. So really keen to hear from the minister, because I know that the communities are reeling from this change.
Mr. Chair. Catherine Weird. Oh, sorry, Honourable Minister.
I can answer that question quite simply. Current council fishing controls in Northland, Bay of Plenty and Marlborough will remain in place during the transition period until the new system comes online as part of their respective RMA plans. Existing RMA plan change processes involving proposed fishing controls and plans that are not subject to plan stop will also continue to progress during the transition period.
Catherine Weird.
I move that debate on this question now close.
No, we're still going, and we're still getting new material. We haven't had any repetition at all, but members, we do need to be making sure it's new material. Rachel Brooking.
Yeah, there's so much excitement in the house there. I may have misplaced which question I was going to ask, but I think it was in relation again to the minister's comment that things aren't rushed, and this amendment that we've had very late in the piece relating to the Plan Change 1 and the Plan Change 2. Is it Plan Change 2? And this comes through in terms of, as I noted before, Schedule 1 of this bill says, see also Schedule 11 of the Planning Act 2025, which sets out amendments to the Resource Management Act and other legislation. And that includes that those plan stops that the Minister only introduced in an amendment on the day that we were starting the planning bill. So this is very fresh and this is very rushed. And he was just speaking about it and saying, well, we're taking a middle ground. These plans have been in development for years, and what they are fundamentally doing is to manage pollution, to stop pollution from going into the rivers. It's very simple. Now the Minister says, oh, well, they'll come on stream at some point in the future, just not now. And why I am worried is, why is there a need to put them on pause if, as he said in his opening statement, this bill is going to allow development within environmental limits? Those plan changes are about environmental limits in terms of what pollution there can be and what controls on it there are. So is he saying either that by pausing these plan changes, pollution will increase, or and if so, what is the time frame to stop that? Or is he saying, oh, these plan changes, they're not actually going to make any difference to pollution anyway, so we can just continue on? And these are important questions, Mr. Chair, because my observation is that you've had some very loud lobby groups say, we don't like the direction of these plan changes, we're going to have to change some of the things that we do. So what we want to do is the cynical move that has happened time and time again throughout this Parliament, that this government has stopped plans where it looked like they were going to deal with pollution. And this seems to be the case again. At the last minute, Mr. Chair, the government rolls in and says, oh, look, we've been lobbied. There was going to be more controls on pollution. We'll just talk about a pause. We'll pause those controls on pollution. So will there ever be any controls? And will the pollution increase in the meantime? And my worry that the answer to those questions are no, there will never be controls, and yes, the pollution will increase in the meantime. And I would like the Minister to tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, Honourable Minister.
Very briefly, I mean, what I just said before, like at least twice, which is that the plan changes are coming to the end of their process, but the system is changing. So the government has to figure out a pragmatic way. Because the plan, it's a bit like the plan stop processes. Some are relatively simple. They mesh well into the new system. We've let them go through to the keeper and happen. But others are highly complicated. The Gisborne forestry plan change is extremely complex and complicated, and it will take 5 years to do. So rather than have people implement a new plan which has to be changed when the new list system comes in, we tried to be pragmatic. I accept it's a bit messy on the way through. When you change a system for the first time in 30 years, it is. But we've got to make pragmatic decisions here, and that's what we've done.
The time has come for me to leave the chair for the lunch break. The House will resume following question time at 3 p.m.